Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. You can catch it live right here on 1410 Wing AM, or you can stream the show at wingam.com. But now we have another way that you can take in the show. You can now watch the Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash live on ESPN Dayton's Facebook page. Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Happy Friday. Good Friday to you, young sir. There's never a bad Friday. And if you are having a bad Friday, the good news is it's Friday and it's a 3-day weekend.
Yes, sir.
Even for us. So that is, unless something pops up here. So no, it's not 3-day weekend. But happy to be with you here today on a Friday. Again, happy Friday. The Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash, brought to you by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty and Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. And again, glad to be with you here this afternoon. It's freaking beautiful outside considering how cold it was this morning. We drove into the parking lot today at work early this morning around 8, and it was just, you could have got your ice skates out if you're an ice skater. I am not. I'm just inch my way to the door and not fall on my behind, and I was successful. So there's that.
Thanks for putting down the salt.
Well, it's in the job description, so got to do what you got to do.
The whole bag.
The whole bag, not one piece for me. Like we were joking the other day, it looked like Heisenberg just was hanging out outside. It's that blue salt for whatever reason, but nonetheless, excited to be with you here this afternoon. Excited to kick off the show with something that it's a topic that I feel like we've been discussing for years. You know what I found funny? I was listening to Colin earlier today. Colin Cowherd was with ESPN when the college football playoff initially started. And I feel like Colin hasn't been with ESPN for ages, but that's how long. And I also feel like the college football playoff has not been around that long. I also feel like we're just a couple years into this thing. And then you start to think about it. This is year 8, heading into year 9. And there's always been that big debate, and I remember heading into that first inaugural college football playoff. It was finally, this is what we've all been needing. Like, it just amazes me. Like, everyone that talks bad about the playoff right now, you would think that it's the worst thing that's ever happened. This is the same sport that just, whoever's number one, I guess that's your national champion. That's the sport that we're bitching about now that's mad because, we don't like the playoff format. Well, at least there's a playoff format in general, as opposed to just saying, that's your national champion, the number one team in the country, or just taking 1 versus 2 and slapping them in a championship game. Also was a pee-poor way of basically determining who your national champion is. Everyone is going to have hot takes on whether they believe it should be a 14 playoff, or there should be a 6 or an 8 or a 12, or I don't know, maybe every team, since we all seem to care about fairness every once in a while, let's just make it every team is eligible for the college football playoff and just have a bunch of bloodbath games to start things off and just start weeding guys out. In fact, we won't even have a regular season. Week 1 is round 1 of the college football playoff, and we just single eliminate everybody throughout the season. Who knows how you determine that? But I've always been a big fan of the 4-team college football playoff for many reasons. Some of these will be repetitive, and that's fine. But every game, I just remember back in the day, regular season did not matter a whole hell of a lot, mainly because when you only had 1 versus 2, you can tell by looking at your schedule, you were never going to be able to do or win enough games to fall in number 1 or number 2 slot. It just kind of made that a little hard to get into. Now, you did look forward to the regular season. You just looked forward to game day just to watch your team play. And then the college football playoff expanded to the 14, or at least, debuted the 4-team college football playoff. And then it's like, holy smokes, like we built it up as there's 3 games. There's 2 semifinals in the national championship. But honestly, teams are advancing in the playoff and being eliminated from the playoff from the time the season kicks off in September? Mm-hmm. So I'm a big fan of the 4-team college football playoff because when you lose, it matters. When you lose, it matters. I hate when, and I don't hate this about college basketball because it's a completely different landscape. They play way more games. But in college basketball, you'll get your Dukes versus Michigan States. You'll get your Ohio State versus Duke. You'll get your big-time non-conference matchups because if you win, that's great for your resume. And if you lose, it's not the end of the world. Duke losing to Ohio State back in November or December, That's not keeping them out of the NCAA tournament. They're going to be dancing. And if they get let's say Duke gets a 2 or a 3 seed, they're not going to say, man, if we just would have beat Ohio State, we would have been a 1 seed. They probably lost 1 or 2 more games to compile that to keep them out of that 1 seed conversation. In college football, it matters. When Notre Dame loses to Cincinnati in September, and you're thinking, oh, man, it's only September. Notre Dame has plenty of time to make up ground. Notre Dame didn't make the playoff this year because they lost to Cincinnati. It's as simple as that. Cincinnati, Notre Dame, that was a playoff game all the way back in September. Cincinnati advanced to the playoff. Notre Dame was eliminated. That's a playoff game. It's that simple, at least in my eyes. The regular season matters. Imagine if it was 8. Imagine if it was 12. Imagine if it was even more than that. Cincinnati beats Notre Dame. That's great for Cincinnati. That sucks for Notre Dame. They're not going to make it. Oh, no, Notre Dame's fine. They're in the playoff. Well, then what the hell's the point? I guess the point is, it's a great non-conference matchup. You watch Cincinnati beat Notre Dame. That was the point. But to me, I just love when you are playing for something to play for, something to be eliminated from. The risk of being left out of the dance, the risk of not being invited. How many of you out there, how many of you are losers like me who weren't invited to the cool kid parties growing up? How many of you had to finagle your way into the cool kid? But yeah, see, Kev, difference in worlds over here. That's fine. I hated not being invited to the parties. I hate it when my friends don't include me in things. I hate it. I'm a child. I throw temper tantrums. I literally pout. Nora calls me, she goes, the man child's at it again. Like that. It drives me nuts. And I want to get mad at her, but she's right. I pout. I hate it. But no one likes not being invited to things. We hate to not be included. That's what the 4-team college football playoff does. I'm so tired of everyone doing this all. Well, it needs to be more fair and more people need to be involved. You need to stop losing games. The purpose of the game is to win. Win and you're in. Back when it was just 1 versus 2, not a whole lot of 3 and 4 lost teams getting in the conversation. Not a whole lot of 2 lost teams in the conversation. You had no problem with that. Actually, you were mad at that then because 1 versus 2, it's not fair. Then you expand it to 4. And we still use that same expectation. And there's added nuances in there, like having to be a conference champion. Of course, we pull that plug whenever we need to, if we need to justify making another decision. I don't know why I keep saying we as if I'm on the committee, but it is what it is. The point is, earlier this afternoon, ESPN's Heather Dinich announced, or at least the news was broke, that the college football playoff will remain at 4 teams until the 12-year contract expires after the 2025 season. Now, how can that be? If you remember, just like right before the season kicked off, there was all this talk, Kev, of a 12-team college football playoff. In fact, so many of these commissioners and so many of the college football playoff committee members were all on board to make it happen as soon as, this coming up season. Mm-hmm. And I don't like to do the whole I told you so thing, but you remember back then I said, I feel like this is a cover-up for something. I feel like, Kev, like they went from saying, they would tinker with the idea of expanding the playoff to maybe 6 games in previous reports that had come out, to now this article comes out that they want to go all the way to 12.
Normally you hit your conspiracy theory music when you start.
Yeah, I don't have it loaded. That I'm a little behind on that. But the point is I remember right before the season started, I even was calling it. I was like, I don't buy into any of this. They're leading you along. There's no way in hell that they're actually going to, do this. Everyone we talk to, from those who work at ESPN, from those I know that work close with the college football playoff and the committee, they have all told us that the committee has even told that they have no intentions of expanding this, that they love what the product that they have, because we are just as pissed off about a loss in November or a loss in October or November as if the loss happened in January. We're pissed when our teams lose in the playoff. But we're even more pissed when they lose in November, December, because why? It matters. That's our playoff game. You got eliminated. Like, that's what drives me crazy. Ohio State, when they lost to Oregon last year, they had a chance. They still had an opportunity. If they beat Michigan, they're a 1-loss Big Ten champion. They're in the playoff over the Bearcats, in my opinion, last season. But you know what? They lost to Michigan. Michigan not only got that big rivalry win, but Michigan propelled themselves into the college football playoff, into the Big Ten title game first. But you know what I'm saying? They advanced. Mm-hmm. So when the season started last year, when these rumors are circulating, I started saying, I just don't see how we went from these reports and rumblings of them potentially kicking the tires on maybe advancing to 6, 8 at the most. Now, all of a sudden, we're drastically talking about 12 teams. Talk about overkill. All for the Liberties of the world? All for the UCFs of the world? Like, no offense to them. It's not a bash against them. It's actually the conference conversation. Like, we get so mad about common sense things. Like, well, it's not fair to the Cincinnatis and the UCFs. And you're making it about an individual program and not the common sense answer, which is, yes, it's a Power 5 conference. Basically, it's a Power 5 conference invitational, if you will. You guys put these cute little nicknames on it to try and discredit it. And no, it's just a Power 5 invitational. Yeah. That's where all the best players in the country are going to. It's not that hard to figure out. I know you'll get your little Cinderella upsets that get y'all excited and wet your pants and all this stuff. Super, but I'm not going to take an opportunity away from a team that plays a 10 million times more difficult schedule than somebody who plays a watered down easy schedule, and then both talk about how, well, I'm undefeated and they have 2 losses. Well, gee, why do they have 2 losses? It's easy common sense stuff that we use in other sports, but we decide to ignore it with college football because we pull for the underdog, and the underdog is the guy that we're telling you're not good enough. You're not tall enough. Now, you think as a short, fat guy like me that I would be able to relate to the underdogs, and I just don't, because I'm an elitist somehow, and I don't understand how. Bottom line is, I might be one of the few people that is absolutely jacked about the 14 college football playoff being here to stay at least into the 2025 season. I would be very shocked if they even changed it then. And if they do change it, I would be shocked if they did expand it to 12. Everyone we have spoke to said that when they've done those mock college football playoff, rooms or the trials, everyone has told them college football loves what we have. 4 teams, people are pissed off, people are talking. They don't care what they're saying as long as you're talking. It's kind of like my philosophy on the show. I don't need you to like me. I just need you to tune in. I don't need you to like the 4-team college football playoff. I just need you to care enough to have an opinion on it, to tweet about it, to tune in to watch it, to Facebook about it, to keep it trending, to keep it relevant, to keep it out there. Because I love when people say, I don't care about the playoff. I don't care about the 4-team playoff. You know what I do when I don't care about things, Kev? I don't talk about them. I don't tweet about them. I don't read about them. I don't research them. I don't get angry about them. I love when people say, I don't care about that. When you sound too angry for a person that doesn't care about it, clearly you care about it. You're upset about it. You may not like it, but you're not allowed to say you don't care about it. And that's the thing with the college football playoff. They don't need you to like it because your dumbass tunes into it. like that's the thing. That's how these bigger businesses look at these numbers and say, well, it's as simple as, are people tuning in or not? Are people diving into this or not? That's really what it comes down to. And at the end of the day, college football, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And did anyone end this past season think it's broken? It used to be non-Power 5 schools, they never have a chance. Cincinnati was in the playoff. Cincinnati got forgiven for close loss after close loss after close loss against teams they had no business being in a game with. If Ohio State would have beat half the team Cincinnati did by the exact same score, that would have been held against Ohio State. Cincinnati got held to a different standard. A standard that you said doesn't exist, that the committee is a bunch of bullies, that it's not meant for the Cincinnati made it. Next complaint. I don't know. We'll sit back and wait. But the bottom line is you could say you don't like it, but you can't say you don't care about it. And until enough people stop caring about it, college football playoff, it's not going anywhere, and it's going to stay at 4. And it's definitely staying at 4 at least until 2026.
Yeah, it's going to stay at 4, and then eventually it'll expand because, more big games equals more revenue for whoever the media partner is. See, that's my thing about college football. I have a couple gripes with college football. One, I love college football more than I love the NFL, but the NFL is a better product, not only because there's better players, but also the NFL isn't driven off of, we're better than y'all, we're better than y'all, we're better than y'all, because everything is proven on the field. That's why the NFL will always be a superior product. It's not based upon opinion, because everything happens on the field of play. But in college football specifically, it's a lot of, well, if this happened, well, if that happened, well, if my team would have beat that team, if we played in this conference or that conference, it's so much back and forth. It's an argument. In the NFL, there is no argument. It's, well, we'll see you on Sunday at 1:00. And everything will play out. That's why the NFL will reign supreme forever, because it's settled on the field. The second thing that I have a gripe with college football about is as simple as we look at this sport and now it is only about the college football playoff. And that's fine if we want to just dumb it down to that. But if I'm the college football playoff, because it is separate from college football in general, you have one media partner. Why on earth do you have one media partner? Why on earth are your playoff games solely on ESPN and ABC, who are Disney? The NFL, they have their product on ESPN, ABC, Disney. They have their product on NBC. They have their product on CBS. They're going to have their product on Amazon streaming. They're going to have their product on their own network, the NFL network. For me, I think you widen the base of college football, you get more interest. If you, as a college football playoff, say, all right, we're going to have semifinal 1 on ABC, NBC. We're going to have semifinal 2 on CBS. So that way you broaden your horizons. You don't have this rhetoric that's out there that says ESPN hates us, ESPN controls it, because then you will have a broader media base. You'll have multiple stations talking about your product. Once the Big Ten and Pac-12 seasons ended, there were no talk about the college football playoffs on the Fox stations because they don't have snake in the game or skin in the game. Once they're out, all right, well, it's their product. That's all they're going to talk about. So you lose viewers, you lose interest. So people can talk about like, I used to say this, like, well, if you expand it, then maybe you'll get more teams in and more teams will be more interested throughout the whole season. That means more conferences will be interested. I kind of still feel that way, but the argument to that would be, well, win some games, do some better recruiting, win some games, and your conference will be involved in it. But the way you can eliminate that simply as a college football playoff, open it up, open up your media partners, because guess what? If you're only selling it to ESPN for whatever amount of money they're getting, guess what? Another media partner will spend just as much money, just like the NFL does. You think that the NFL will solely have their product on one station? No, that's why they dominate everything. NBA, they're on ESPN, they're on Turner Sports. Why is the college football playoff only on ESPN? That allows people to have conspiracy theories about ESPN's involvement in shuffling things. That allows them to say, well, they're in bed with them. That's because they got the SEC network. You eliminate that, then more people will have an open mind and you'll be bringing in more revenue. So those are my biggest gripes with college football in general. I say that they need to wisen up and since they have such a great product, don't have your biggest and most important games solely on one network. You don't have the regular season on one network. They're everywhere. Have your biggest product, go to the highest bidder, spread it out. If it's on CBS, cool. If it's on Fox, cool. Spread it out. More people involved.
I agree with that mindset. You make great points about the NFL. That's why the NFL is king. In fact, when we get the NCAA tournament for March Madness coming up, that's a different animal, but there's also more games involved to spread the wealth. I know you're talking about, I don't know how much more money you would get if you spread it across more networks, but I guess you're saying more games, you'd be able to do that. But at the same time, the NFL could do it because everyone's under one umbrella.
Right.
If COVID taught us anything, it's that we keep saying college football like it's all one big entity, and it's not one big entity.
Right.
It's the Power Fives, and the Power Fives aren't even a team of their own. It's Power Fives that are the main conferences, and then it's the Power Fives versus the Power Fives. The Power Fives didn't work together. The Power Fives, in fact, made COVID worse. They made the protocols worse. They made things more difficult. They had to eliminate non-con because no one could agree. Can you imagine if all 5 non-conferences during the peak of the pandemic, when we had less answers back at the time, when we were just acting out of fear more than anything else, you know how much more peace of mind the fan base and college football protocols could have been made if all 5 power conferences came together and said, we are all going to operate under the same testing policies, under the same COVID policies, so that we could still get our non-conference in, so that we could still play this team out of this conference and this team out of that conference. No, everyone acted for themselves. In fact, this is why I'm still annoyed at the ACC for bailing out Notre Dame, because they bailed out Notre Dame. They brought Notre Dame in, obviously, for that one season, just to be able to add some depth to help prop up Clemson's resume, which was smart from a business perspective. But I thought that it, really bailed out Notre Dame. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened. Notre Dame may not have even had a season that year if Clemson would not have added them to the conference, because everyone went conference only. I say all this because I know what you're saying, Kev, about, well, the NFL would never just be on one network. Well, that's the NFL is one entity. College football, we may say it's singular, like college football. College football won't do that. College football has way too many dang moving parts.
But no, this is the college football playoff.
But if it's not broke, don't fix it. And it's not. And I think that if they felt, they're looking at it too. In the article I read talking about that, it's not just about, okay, yes, you could expand it to make more money here, and then you water down this over here. This is just about the perfect generation of interest from the start of the season to the very end. And expanding it You lose interest at the beginning. You lose interest in the middle. You get a bunch of interest at the very beginning because it's still going to sift itself out. It's still going to come down to the same dang teams every single season.
Oh yeah, what I'm saying is, as the college football playoff, even as it's constructed now, you have semifinal 1 on ESPN, ABC. You have semifinal number 2 on CBS, and that year the championship game is on Fox. Just the same way how they rotate around what stadium or what bowl game they're going to be playing in, just rotate them. Rotate who has the championship game on their network, and the team that has a championship game on their network, the other schools or the other media partners get the semifinal. You can do that as constructed, and you can bring in more revenue because that's what they want to do, right? And you can do that without expanding it. And I think that in itself will continue to have the sport talked about, because we, like ESPN, it's the mothership and everything like that. It's the sports hub, but it's an East Coast based product. Like, they talk a ton of Yankees. Like the show that comes on before is Bar 9. They talk a ton of Yankees. They talk a ton of New York Knicks. But guess what? The Fox Sports, they're an LA based sports product. They talk a ton of Lakers. They talk a ton of USC. They talk a ton of UCLA. You have those products over there on their networks, so that will keep that fan base on that side of the coast interested. But because you're never going to lose the traditional college football fan, they're going to follow wherever the college football game or the championship games. It's a click of a button. You can watch it on whatever channel, but you get money from them, you get money from them, and you get money from them. I'm just looking at it. I just think it's a short-sighted saying we're going to take this short money right here, as opposed to flexing your power like your big brother does, the NFL, and the NFL gets money from everybody. I think they're shortchanging themselves from just only having it on ESPN.
I just think that we're not giving them enough credit. I think there's also other entities in the way too. Keep in mind, not all 5 power conferences want an expanded playoff field.
No, I'm talking about as is. You don't have to expand.
That, but they have to vote on it too. The conferences have to get a say in this as well. It's not just up to the college football playoff. Like, that's why they have members of all of those. Like the Pac-12, that loser ass conference, of course, they're swinging the flag saying we want expanded college. Yeah, because your teams aren't good enough to make the 4. You know, I mean, if you notice, Alabama, the SEC, they're kind of just sitting back saying, we're cool with 4, we're cool with 5, we're cool with 3. SEC's good. The Big Ten, they're not complaining. They've had 3 teams make the college football playoff. They believe it should have been more. You know, Penn State could have been a team. You know, Michigan State's made it. Michigan just made it. Ohio State's made it a handful of times. I just think that, yeah, if we're just going to be simply making it about money, then yes, the financial thing that makes the most sense is expand it. But I think that they know that they can make more money expanding it as well. But I think that they think right now, too, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And outside of, you know, people keep talking about what's fair. College athletics is not fair. There's nothing fair about college athletics. There's nothing fair about it. I mean, it's just one big jumbled mess. But I always get a kick out of the commissioner. I forget his name for the Pac-12 now, but he was just so disappointed today. And I'm like, well, USC, they just get Lincoln Riley. If USC, all of a sudden, if Lincoln Riley puts them back on the map and they're in the playoff for the next 2-3 years, do you think, I'm really curious, I'm going to keep track of this commissioner, because I would really love to know when we get to that 2025 season, how vocal will he be about the expansion to the college football playoff? Because of course he's the one screaming about it. Of course the Big 12 is screaming about college football playoff expansion, because outside of Oklahoma, they don't have anyone that's relevant when it comes to the college football playoff as far as that's concerned. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I just think that the conferences need to do a deeper dive in looking at themselves, whether it's how they schedule. This is why I give the Big Ten credit. The Big Ten just had Michigan make the college football playoff a year after Ohio State was in the national championship, after Ohio State was in the playoff the year before. And what is the Big Ten doing? Well, what can we do to make our scheduling better? What can we do to try to put our teams in even better position to make sure that we are consistently in the playoff and not going 2 years without a team in it like we've seen in years past? That's why I respect the Big Ten, because the Big Ten could be out here saying, we want it expanded. but they're spending more time focusing on how they could better their conference from a revenue service as far as the TV deal, which it sounds like if they get this NBC deal, it'll be kind of like a joint deal with like Notre Dame, but it'll be it'll be the Big Ten, Ohio State, same thing. It'll be the Big Ten and Notre Dame on NBC, and it'll be a deal that totally just makes the SEC look silly at this point. It's going to be the biggest TV deal that ever gets done in college athletics history, which is pretty damn impressive. So I say all of that because yes, we can always, but when we expand it to 6 or expand it to 8, we'll be crying about 10 or 12. So to your point, Kev, yes, you can expand it and get more money, but that's if you expand to 12, 2-3 years into that, man, what if we went to 16? Imagine how much more money we can get with 16 teams. Man, 18. The other roadblock is scheduling. The other reason a lot of conferences aren't big on the college football playoff expansion is because it's going to eliminate regular season games.
Right.
And college football playoff games are going to turn into bowl games, which means those are going to be games on neutral fields. Okay. Now, there is talk of some teams hosting, which is why Gene Smith's comments went viral yesterday, which we'll get to in a moment. But there is talk of, okay, you expand the playoff. That means more games to be played, which would most likely eliminate the top of the regular season schedule, which means you'll get rid of non-conference games. But when you're a team like Ohio State or Alabama or Clemson or Georgia and others, when you're eliminating non-con games, you're really eliminating home games. And when you eliminate home games, like people say all the time, well, all they got to do is get rid of that Miami of Ohio game or that Bowling Green game. You guys, you're too busy focusing on the opponent that they have. And Ohio State's athletics department, they're looking at 110,000 fans at the shoe, regardless of who the opponent is. 110,000 tickets being sold, 110,000 people buying drinks, buying nachos, buying beer, all the activity going on around campus, just the money it brings. So to eliminate that game, even if the quality of opponent's not great, you're eliminating a home game. You do one, you do 2 of those. You look how drastic that impacts the economy. So there's way more to it than just expand the playoff, make more money, everyone's happy. It digs deeper than that. And that's why a lot of these conferences they're fighting internally. They don't want to eliminate non-conference games. They don't want to play less conference games. They want more home games. And by expanding the college football playoff, you're taking away home games and you're basically taking away money. So to the teams in the programs, Kev, they're saying, you want us to get rid of 1 or 2 home games. That is going to be millions and millions of dollars out of our pocket so that you could expand the college football playoff and make billions of money on your pocket. That's why this is also going to be harder to get done as far as I'm concerned.
For sure. And another thing about college football, definitely when I fell in love with college football in the mid to late 90s was, you saw a ton of matchups of big time teams coming to other stadiums. The whole neutral site thing wasn't a thing. You saw a Florida State going to Michigan. You see these games happening and teams traveling across the country to play those teams. That's what I don't want to happen. I don't want the lack of out of conference games to happen. Like, I went to Ohio State at Texas. I went to that football game. That was a great atmosphere. It was cool to go down there, see what other stadiums do, see their traditions and everything like that. Because my fear, if they expand and then they ultimately eliminate non-con games and everything like that, it will become like baseball. It will become super regional. Like, you won't have those matchups until the playoff. Like, no, I want to get some of those matchups during the regular season. No, we don't need one every single week, but like one a week. Like, we got non-con for the first 3 weeks of the season. Like, yeah, I want to see Ohio State play Oregon or USC or Florida before the conference schedule. Like, because we already know, they're going to play, a lot of the teams that they already play in the Big Ten or in your conference aren't that great. Like, obviously, nobody's watching Alabama, Vanderbilt. They're conference opponents, but come on, man. That's not going to bring in ratings. That's not going to bring in eyeballs. I would love to see non-conference games continue and definitely want to see them on their own campuses as opposed to all these neutral site games.
Yeah, and so it's like you want more non-conference games. You want to expand the college football playoff. Not all that's going to happen.
Right.
Like, it's going to be expanded college football playoffs, lose these non-conference games at the beginning or only have 1 or 2. And then teams have to say, well, I don't need to put a USC on my schedule.
Right.
I could have my warm-up, game that I just go beat the snot out of this team over here. rely on some of the bad teams in our conference to, give us some off weeks, if you will, and then, have a couple big games with Michigan State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, what have you here and there. Even if I lose once or hell, even twice along the way, it's a damn 12-team college football playoff. I'll be right there no matter what. It'll be easier, but again, it's all about money. So everyone that's saying, well, the college football playoff, it's as simple as expanding it to make more money. Well, the playoffs making money. ESPN, they're getting their money's worth. And I'm sure that money's redistributed to the conferences. But again, when it's redistributed through the conferences, are you getting the same amount or more of what you would for the 2 home games you're going to lose in the non-conference?
Right.
That's the big holdup for some of these bigger schools. And everyone says, well, it's about all the schools. No, it's not. That's why it's about 4 teams, because it's about the same 6 schools every single year. And then even then, it's really just about the same 2. We're live on Facebook. Head to Facebook, search The Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash. You'll be able to follow along. Chad on Facebook says, just curious, don't you think a tournament of all the conference winners would be a good thing for college football? On paper, when you sit back and you say, well, man, the conference champions, that should matter. I think that, if that was the case, the national champion for college football this year would not have happened. Georgia was the national champion. Alabama was the SEC champion from the SEC championship game, but then ultimately Georgia got the last laugh. They got the better of Alabama in the actual college football national championship game. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as that's concerned.
I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind that if it was only the champions of the conference. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all. I think it would put more emphasis on winning your conference, and you wouldn't have a ton of controversy because everything's settled on the field. I think you would eliminate they only put them in because they have a bigger fan base. They only put so-and-so team in because they're more popular. They only put so-and-so on there because they get a bigger rating. Everything will be eliminated by playing on the field. So I wouldn't mind that. I truly wouldn't. I actually would champion that, to be perfectly honest.
I think it'd be horrible just because of the fact that, again, you're not getting the best teams in at that point. Like, a lot of times it comes down to scheduling breaks. I mean, if Ohio State doesn't, when they're having to play Michigan State and they're having to play Michigan and they're having to play Penn State, all while Northwestern over here plays absolutely nobody. Like that's the stuff that, but again, that would be up to the conferences to readjust their scheduling to position themselves better, which the Big Ten is clearly doing at this point. But if a committee ever tries to make decisions just to get people to stop complaining on social media, you'll never find the right decision. So to say, that'll eliminate the people saying that it's rigged or whatever. If you take your homer cap off and look at the teams that have made the playoffs, there might be 1, maybe 2 controversial picks, and I don't even think they're that controversial. There was Ohio State that made it over Penn State. They lost to Penn State that year. Penn State was Big Ten champions, but Ohio State was a 1-loss team that had 4 top 10 victories on the season. To me, it made all the sense in the world why they made it over Penn State, who was a 2-loss Big Ten champion. Ohio State was a 1-loss team that had 4 wins in the top 10 that year, with the win over Oklahoma, and they checked off that box of getting the win in the non-conference. So to me, it's like that was a controversial one. And then it also involved Ohio State, I believe, in the very first college football playoff when they picked them over, was it Washington, I believe?
TCU.
TCU. I always say Washington. It's TCU. And that was more about sending a message to the Big 12 about getting a conference championship. Also, they could just put Notre Dame in the college football playoff twice over the next 8 years, which I always got a big kick out of as far as that. But 518-1410, 518-1410, that's the number to call in and jump in on the conversation. The news came out earlier today. The college football playoff will stay at 4 teams through the duration of its current contract. The earliest that a college football playoff expansion could happen is 2026, but they emphasize the earliest if there's any interest. So I do find that interesting. And I think that, any reason you want to give for why they should expand in 26 is the exact reason they should expand now, but they found it in themselves that, hey, you know what, we're fine with it staying as is. And I know I'm happy with it, too, as well. 518-1410, it's the Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Many Vietnam War veterans were unknowingly exposed to dangerous chemicals impacting their health and quality of life. There are now expanded benefits for veterans exposed to Agent Orange. Veterans with Parkinsonism, bladder cancer, or hypothyroidism who previously applied for VA disability compensation but were denied should reapply and might be eligible for retroactive compensation. Exposed veterans who have not yet applied should consider filing a new claim. For assistance, call Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission at 937-225-4801.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well. Medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? So you've got an oil change coming up. We can help you save on the right oil for your vehicle. Right now, get 5 quarts of Castrol Edge Full Synthetic or Castrol Edge Full Synthetic High Mileage Motor Oil with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for just $35.99. Visit one of our 6,000 stores or order from AutoZone.com for same-day store pickup or next-day delivery.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? So you've got an oil change coming up. We can help you save on the right oil for your vehicle. Right now, get 5 quarts of Castrol Edge Full Synthetic or Castrol Edge Full Synthetic High Mileage Motor Oil with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for just $35.99. Visit one of our 6,000 stores or order from AutoZone.com for same-day store pickup or next-day delivery.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
This week on RVER, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm sorry, I can't operate on that vehicle.
But doctor, you took an oath.
That RV, it's my son's RV.
Oh, doctor, isn't there anything you can
I'm not a miracle worker, Sheila. I'm an RV surgeon, trained to save the lives of large injured recreational vehicles, which is definitely a real profession.
When your RV really needs saving, Progressive has you covered. See if you could save with a leader in RV insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, covered subject to policy terms.
You make 35,000 decisions every day. Are your gambling decisions good ones? If you struggle with a problem with gambling, call 1-800-589-9966 for free confidential support. Do you have a loved one who struggles with a problem with gambling? This 24/7 helpline also provides resources on how to support a loved one who may need help. Call 1-800-589-9966 or visit beforeyoubet.org.
During our President's Day event, save up to $250 on select Alienware and XPS computers powered by Intel. Call 800-BUY-DELL.
The Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
ESPN's Jeff Passan says Major League Baseball, this is on Twitter, he tweets out that Major League Baseball has postponed spring training games through at least March 5th, which was obvious, of course, but it's now official as the league prepares to start meeting with the MLB Players Association on Monday as collective bargaining negotiations finally start to ramp up. The deadline for which Major League Baseball has set that an agreement needs to be put in place by for the regular season to still start on time will be February 28th. So starting next Monday, they will meet every day through that deadline to try to speed it up to get it done. But the thing that irritates the living you-know-what out of me is if all of a sudden you could flip that switch to increase the urgency of meeting on a daily basis starting on Monday, what was keeping your asses from meeting the days before this? Why aren't you meeting today and tomorrow and Sunday? Why Monday? What are you doing over the next 3 days? Well, we need a couple days to prepare. Well, don't you need that same time to prepare whatever you need to prepare between Monday and Tuesday when you start meeting on a daily basis? Stop making excuses. Like, this is the stuff, like, I can't stand Major League Baseball right now. Good for college football. If the worst thing that we're talking about is, oh, man, I hate the 14 college football playoff. Well, at least everything's all hunky-dory in college football world because baseball can't even get their stuff together. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of rich people sitting there yelling at one another about, no, I need more money. No, I need more money. You ain't touching my money. Well, that money's my money because I'm the reason you're making that money. Shut up. Gosh, dang it, man. I'm telling you, it's just exhausting. We welcome you back. Speaking of exhausting, we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. It is tax season, by the way, for those of you who are fortunate to get a tax return. I said it. I don't like getting, I just don't like money being held out of my account. So I take it all. I get less, and I don't mind paying at the end. I don't like getting a bit. I mean, I do like getting a nice little, tax, refund check, but I also would just prefer to have more of my check out on a biweekly basis. So, but either way,
pray to break even.
Yep. Arrowhead Tax Service in New Carlisle is where I go. That's where Kevin's going. And we're excited to partner up with Arrowhead Tax Service. And we're highly suggesting that is where you go to get your taxes done. Michael Maxwell with Arrowhead Tax Service, he gives back to the community with every paid return. In fact, at the very end, when you're done, you'll check a box, and of the money that you paid to have your taxes done, a portion of that does go to different various community projects, which is pretty cool. I always check the Little League, Little League Baseball. That's where the money goes to that I pick. So 113 West Jefferson Street in New Carlisle. Give them a call to schedule your tax return meeting. Again, 937-543-5770. Tax preparation, accounting, and payroll. Taxes to Go app can send information to him without actually having to come in. It's locally owned. Again, he takes the stress out of tax season. 25% off to all military, veterans, and first responders. Call for a free estimate right now. Again, you can also go online at arrowheadtaxservice.com. Appreciate Michael Maxwell and Arrowhead Tax Service in New Carlisle. So give them a visit, give their website a visit, and also give them a call or a visit. 113 West Jefferson Street in New Carlisle, 543-5770, the number to call, or online at arrowheadtaxservice.com.
Yesterday we were kind of talking about this off mic or whatever about taxes and everything like that. And I'll admit it, back in my early 20s, I used to use these online services to do my taxes myself. How stupid was I? Like, come on, man. Let's get professionals to do it. Have a professional do it. They know what they're doing. You don't know what you're doing. It's a stress. It's a headache. You wouldn't go change your own roof. So have a professional do your roof, have a professional do your taxes.
Yeah, I'm not the most hands-on person. And when I say I'm not the most hands-on, I'm not hands-on at all. I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to do my own taxes. I barely know how to use a screwdriver. I could barely put a light bulb in. I don't even know how to pull my zipper up when it's down. I mean, I'm just a hot mess. So my money goes to the community and all the services in the area because I have to pay everyone to do absolutely everything for me. And luckily, I make a lot of money.
That new contract?
I do not make a lot of money, just so we are clear. I'm not a baseball player, so Anyways, 518-1410, the college football playoff will remain at 4 teams. It'll remain at 4 teams at least for the duration of the original 12-year contract, which started back in the inaugural season of the inaugural college football playoff season of 2014. So it will stay this way for this upcoming 2022 season, 2023, 4, and 5. I mean, folks, that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So get used to it. You could be upset. You could cry and complain. You could make all that. And Kev, I'm not talking about you because I know you're making the points that I'm making fun of. So I apologize. But, whatever. You're used to me being a jerk by this point. But you can make all the crybaby excuses you want of why it needs to expand. It's not expanding. So I don't know what to say at this point. But let me forget what your opinion is of why it needs to expand. Is the product bad right now?
No, I don't think it necessarily needs to expand. But if they did, I wouldn't jump over a cliff. It's fine the way it is. I just think what we talked about with the Super Bowl and going into the college football playoff, whenever your last game is happening, all you want, not only as fans of the sport or people just jumping in or even people hosting it, you want the last game to be good. That's all you really want. And to be perfectly honest, you don't have a clue, because if you have a 12-team playoff, a 16-game playoff, BCS where there's only 2 teams, you have no idea what the final game is going to be. So people that say, all right, if we just only have the 4 teams, we're going to get better matchups and better games. Well, there's been blowouts there. Well, then people say, like, what if you expand it, you let more teams in, and then maybe you get more games. At the end of the day, if you have good games throughout the playoffs, it don't matter. People want the final game to be the best game of the season. This year's Super Bowl was not the best game this season. I think we saw the best game of the season with the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills and everything like that. So for me, you want to try to position it to a point where you do get the most competitive teams on the field to hopefully get the best game. And that's all you really want as a fan, to have your last game is be as competitive, as entertaining as humanly possible.
See, I think, yeah, I mean, but for college football, it's a little bit different than the NFL. NFL, there are fans of those teams all over the country. To where college football, college sports in general could be a little bit more regionalized. And like, I only disagree with that a little bit. Like, I think that the NCAA tournament, which we're going to be Selection Sunday, is 3 weeks from this Sunday, by the way. Selection Sunday is the most exciting day for college basketball. The first 4 in the first round and the round of 32, that's the best time of the NCAA tournament. Honestly, if you're not a basketball diehard, you check out after that round of 32. You tune in because your bracket's all full and it doesn't have red ink or blue ink all over it. So what ends up happening is you definitely get all excited because everyone around you is filling out brackets. You fill out your brackets. You tune into the first 4. You tune into the first round. You tune into the round of 32. Usually the Cinderella story, that's where it stops. It usually takes care of itself. You're going to have a couple big schools that get upset, but usually it takes care of itself. I mean, you'll get those Butler years. You'll get that Loyola year. You'll get those from time to time, but more times than not, in terms of the Final Four, I mean, like them actually making it all the way to the end, it usually takes care of itself. But the talk, like, we'll talk heavy NCAA tournament from Selection Sunday until the round of 32, and then it usually dies down after that. People stop caring as much. And I think that I noticed it this past year, even with the Bearcats being in the college football playoff, the build to the playoff was a cajillion billion, if that's even a thing, times better than the actual playoff games and national championship itself. The NFL playoffs, every game outside of 2 came down to the very final possession. But that's drastically different because, a lot of those teams are more evenly matched, and you can obviously tell that just by watching it. The 1 seeds so 8 seasons, Kev, the 1 seed in the college football playoff, what do you think their record is?
Oh, man, the 1 seed. One more. Ask me that one more time.
8 games. There's been 8 there's 8
years,
games.
so you got 8 1 seeds, 8 games. I would imagine their record is 5-3.
5-3 is the record for the 1 seeds. What about the 2 seeds?
I do this, by the way. 2 seeds record. Let me see. That's 1. Well, I'm kind of cheating because I go back and think about these. 2 seeds probably. I think the 2 seeds is better. I want to say 2 seeds are 6-2.
They are 5-3. So the 1s and the 2s are 5-3. Now, again, the number 2 team won the national championship this year. So there's that. I thought Georgia, I forgot. So when I originally wrote this down, I had the number 1 at 6-2 because I thought Georgia was the 1 seed this year. Now they are, so it's 5-3, 5-3 for the 1s, 5-3 for the 2s. Now in the national championship game, what is the record for? This is what I find interesting. The 1 seed is 5-3 overall in the college football playoff. What do you think the record is in the national championship game?
Oh man.
I'll give you, they've been to 6. The 1 seed has made it to 6 of the 8 college football national championship games. So of those 6 games, what is their record in that?
4-2.
2-4.
Aha. I knew the 2 seed has played better because
the
Clemson
2 seed's 4-1.
Yeah, because Clemson has a couple, and so does Alabama.
So, and then these numbers get kind of interesting again. So the 3 seed in their 8 games, their record is what?
Well, 3-5.
Yes, 3-5 it is. The 3 seed is 0-3 in the national championship game. The 4 seed is 2-6 in their 8 games. I'm sorry, I should guess. What do you think their record is in the national championship?
1-0. 2-0. 2-0.
I don't know who that 4th team is, though. I don't know who the other 4th team is. Was it Clemson? Who's won a national championship outside of, because Michigan State, I guess I could just look right here. It's right in front of me.
Another 4 seed has won the chip.
Yeah, it says that according to this is the actual college football playoff website. It has them at the record national championship game. The 4 seed is 2-0, and the 3 seed is 0-3.
Ohio State and who?
So Ohio State won it in 14. So, duh. It's that year that Ohio State and so Alabama
when they beat Georgia. Yeah.
So Ohio State and Alabama, the 2 4 seeds, the 2 lone 4 seeds are 2-0 in the national championship game.
Cream of the crop. Go Buckeyes.
But the 4 seed has the worst overall record. No surprise there, 2-6. But they have the only unblemished record when the 4 seed gets to the national championship, they win it. They don't lose.
So the key is be the 4 seed, make it to the chip, and then you win.
See, it was that easy, Bearcats. You just forgot to win. All right, 518-1410. Thoughts on the college football playoff staying at 4? The reason I ask Cav is the product bad right now? It's because that's what I keep having to remind people. Is as much as people speak with venom about this, 14 playoff like it's the worst thing. I'm like, but the product's great. College football is not broken. When you talk about making like the NBA is starting to do these weird little like play-in tournaments, and they're adding these little extra little stipulations, and they're doing all this stuff. That's because the product's it's not failing. That's an aggressive word to use, but the product needs some tinkering because ratings are dropping.
Right.
So that's why they're tinkering with it. That's why I keep saying if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Major League Baseball, part of the expansion or part of the playoff conversations for them are coming from Kev, where the playoff team gets to pick their opponent. They get to pick the higher seed gets to pick their wild card opponent. And they're just adding these weird little gimmicky things. But why? Because they have to. They have to come up with different ways to get people to watch.
Right.
College football does not have a problem with people watching the college football playoff, or at least watching throughout the regular season. Now, I know we're coming off of 2 of the least viewed college football playoff semifinals, but we're still talking about 18 to 20 million people tuning in to watch. Like, that's what's crazy about this is, yes, numbers are not as high as what they've been in playoffs past, and that dictate, I think that changes as, depending on who's in it. Ohio State regularly, they're a higher ranked, or they're a higher ratings team when it comes to that. So that's why I ask. You may not like the 14, but unless it's broken, there's no need to fix it. And regardless of your opinion of why they need to expand it, unless your opinion is it's broken, they need to fix it, it doesn't matter. Because, yes, there's maybe ways to make it better. You can always make something better. But sometimes things are so rocky, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's kind of where I'm at with where we sit right now. But 518-1410, 518-1410. Let's go to Darren. Darren, thanks for holding, sir. How are you? Darren, you there? All right, Darren is gone. Let's go CD. CD, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
Is your name CD? Is that right? Did I get that right?
Well, no, it's my initials.
Oh, okay. All good.
First off, I want to say I like your show. I like the way you kind of play devil's advocate and rile people up.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, you take.
I know.
You pick out. Yeah, okay. But anyway, you brought up the college playoff, which ever since they started it, I've kind of been minorly irritated by it.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it should be 8 teams. Now, you guys have better access. You're younger than I am, and you can go on your phones and find out. But the way I remember it when they started this, there were really, for 3 or 4 years before they started it, there were, 5, 6, sometimes 7 teams that could go to, claim the national championship. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought was, there's a lot to this. What I thought they should do is take the 4 or 5 top conferences champions, and then pick out the 3 others to get to 8 to have an 18 playoff. Now, granted, not all of them are legitimate shots, but you would expand it to 5 or the 5th or 6th spot that used to be able to claim that maybe they could have a shot at the national championship when they didn't have playoffs. Do you follow?
Mm-hmm.
And so if they did that, it would get all of the conferences, right now, what is the most, everybody said, what is the most dominant college, conference? Everybody's claiming it's the SEC, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, if you were to go through with the major college conferences, that would encourage, instead of funneling players to one or two or three conferences, would spread it out, would be good for college football. And then also by having a 8-team playoff, there is no bye, which personally I don't think in a playoff like this there should be a bye. I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
No, and CD, thank you. I appreciate that. Look, I don't think every suggestion for a format for a college football playoff there's never really bad ones. There's some that I think are a lot more difficult to pull off, and some I think are generated from the current college football playoff landscape as far as how the teams finished this year.
Right.
But it used to be, well, we got to come up with a way to get conference champions in the playoff because teams like Cincinnati and them keep getting screwed. And my point to that is, well, what do you say now that Cincinnati has been, they've made it to the college football playoff? So it's like we always say we have to do it to protect those teams, but honestly, Cincinnati finally deserved to be in this year. That wasn't the case for UCF. We could do the whole UCF. We knew that they were good just based on what they did in a bowl game the year before. Well, that was a bowl game that was the precedent for that bowl game was based on what you did that previous season, not what you were going to do the next season. And you can't use that game that you got into for how you performed the previous season as a one of the benchmarks for how to make the playoff the next season. There was no big non-con opponent for those teams to justify putting them in. Cincinnati kind of fixed that a bit. But there's a lot of different things you could do and methods you could do. But I don't think it's that college football is struggling to come up with a concept that's going to work as far as the playoff format itself, Kev. What they're running into is, how do you make it work with the regular season? The college football playoff right now, we're talking about a handful of teams. We're talking about 4 teams that have to ultimately play 2 more games. Mm-hmm. Technically just 1 more. Because every team is used to, the teams we're talking about competing at the playoff level, those teams are used to playing in a bowl game.
Right.
So you're going to get your 12 or 11 regular season games, your conference championship game, and your bowl games. That's going to put you at your 13-14 win mark. Well, now those teams, they just have to adjust to playing 1 more if they get to the national championship game. Now what you're asking them to do is to play 3 more games, 2 more games. And now that becomes an NFL schedule. And in a sport that's talked about so much about the amateurism of it, it just doesn't make sense, of course, unless there's a way for the schools to make more money and not just a little bit more money, a lot more money. And just because you make money off the playoff, how much money did you have to lose at the front end of your regular season by cutting back on games to make room for this? And what happens when you're bad? When you're Alabama and you're Clemson, you're Ohio State, it's easy to have an opinion in Georgia about these playoffs. But then when you become irrelevant in the playoff conversation, now you've lost your front end home games for your non-con. Now you're not relevant in the playoff scene. So now you're not getting that money back. You're not playing in extra games that generate revenue. So that's why a lot of these suggestions, I just don't see how realistic they are as far as making more money for everybody. And sure, it's about making more money for the college football player, but now you run into a Major League Baseball versus a Major League Baseball Players Association thing where, okay, yeah, you're making all the money, but what about us? And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, so much is, I won't say wrong, but just off about college sports in general, because we're always going to equate it to the professionals and everything like that. But what we have to realize, this isn't technically professional sports. So the labor themselves, they're not paid directly in a monetary manner. So we want more games. We want our teams to be on TV more. We have so many wants. But at the end of the day, there's just not going to be that way. There's a ton that college football has to still deal with. They have to still deal with it being college. So school, you have to deal with older people wanting traditional rivalries and things the way they used to be and everything like that. So you have to combat that. And then you also have the new generation who wants things to be done a different way. So they are juggling a lot of things to try to keep people happy the way they can. But the reality is it's just not going to happen. And then you have to look at it from the aspect of people always saying, and myself included, that how can we make it interesting the entire season interesting for everybody, as opposed to these same 6 teams that constantly just kind of rotate in and out of the playoff. I think that you can't just say that, like, well, if it's not broke, it's don't fix it, because you have to have foresight and see, like, what can we do to continue to push the sport forward and continue to keep the sport better. We see this with baseball, with them trying to keep the old ways and say this is how we've done it, and then when they do change things, it seems like it's always met with people unhappy. With the All-Star game, with what you just talked about, with the number 1 seed getting to pick their opponent, is always going to be something to have them looked at in a different light. But I think college football's purpose, or what they should be trying to do, is to keep those traditions alive and satisfy the new customer. Because if you don't have the tradition, then it might as well just be the NFL. So if you want it to be college football, you have to keep those traditional things that make college football unique and different from professional football. In that case, you just might as well be arena football.
I know, but you're the one that keeps bringing up, well, the NFL would never do it this way. The NFL wouldn't do it this way. Now you're saying you can't be like the NFL.
No. I'm not saying not be like the NFL. I'm talking about you have to still, basically have to please two masters. You have to please the older folks that grew up on college football and their traditions, and you have to come up with a way to keep the sport moving forward. So not saying that you can't have it. You can have it both ways, because they've proven they can have it both ways. Because like you talked about, when they brought in the college football playoff, I think that was one of the biggest things that ever happened for college football. Like, it took off like a rocket ship. Now it's starting to plateau because people are like, well, now they're realizing, like, all right, this is big money. This is big business, not just for the college football and their partners, but the institutions. Like, they're realizing, like, hold on, we literally have no chance to make the playoffs. It's not because we don't have talent on our team. It's because team or school X has so much money that they can have facilities that can take a rocket ship to a moon while we're taking a bus. You know what I mean? So, like, they're in a very delicate spot to try to figure this situation out. It's not going to be easy to continue to grow the sport. And I think that's what their purpose is, to continue to grow the sport, not to stay stagnant.
Well, either way, you expand it to 8 or 12. There's still going to be 20 schools ahead of those schools that have the problem with not having the resources as everybody else. Like, so that's not going to fix that problem. Like, there's more fixes that need to be made from the bottom up instead of the top of the playoff down. And until the bottom up is fixed, you could do whatever you want to the top, but that's not going to take away the fact that, I mean, the same teams that are involved in the 4 will be involved in the 12. And then about 5 years into the 12, we'll realize that, oh man, of the 12, it's the same 10 teams of the 12 that we just rotate in these other 2 feel-good stories whenever we feel like changing the rules, like they did for the Bearcats this past year. So it's always going to be just at the end of the day. I mean, I still think if there'd be more valid arguments if football wasn't coming off one of the most entertaining football seasons in forever. And my team didn't even make the college football playoff, and that's how exciting this past season was. But 518-1410, Kev, who we got?
We got James.
Which line?
3, I'm sorry.
Let's go to James. James, how are you, sir?
Hey, guys. So 2 quick things. One, on this subject matter, I think I'm probably of the notion of if it's not broke, don't fix it. I grew up in an era where the AP was the only poll, and you would have 2 national champions or split national championships. And I can't remember what year, but I think, 4 teams is great. 8 teams would be fine. But it's such a solid product right now. And a team like Cincinnati did get in this year, which breaks the model. And so I would say, if they want to make a slight change, fine. But otherwise, I think they've got an amazing product. Can I quickly share my Bengals Super Bowl story?
Yeah, we have a few.
So I was in Chicago, and my buddies and I decided on Friday afternoon to buy tickets, and it ended up being the right time to do it. And so we didn't have the benefit of watching on television. And my only comments are, one, obviously the T. Higgins face mask, we couldn't see that. And that was really atrocious. We did see we were right on top of the Logan Wilson play. And that was highly unfortunate, because I think, everyone's acknowledged that was not holding in any way. And then I'm sure you guys have seen this, maybe you've already talked about it on the show, but Jamar Chase was wide open on that last play. If Burrow had one more second, he was all alone by himself. The defender had fallen down.
Oh, I know, and that's what I mean, and that was just kind of insult to injury. I think Bengals fans could have coped better with the loss if that picture of Jamar Chase beating Ramsey up that right sideline was. I mean, that image will be embedded into the brains and minds and memories of Bengals fans there for the rest of their lives. I'm not saying a loss is easy. I mean, some people could just go up on stage with Kid Cudi an hour after losing a Super Bowl, and then others are just mentally just drained and just suffer from it forever. So at the end of the day, that's just the way that game ended. It stinks that they lost, but because you could see Jamar Chase streaking up that right sideline, man, that's brutal.
It's brutal. And I think when I was a kid, I was in college when they lost against the 49ers in Miami. I was in junior high when they lost against the 49ers in Detroit. And it affected me more as a kid. As an adult, I'm like, okay, whatever. I've got my career, my family, so I'm ready to move on. But yeah, I when I saw that picture, that image, I was like, oh my gosh, what? Not 3 seconds, not 2 seconds, one more second. And he hits Chase, and Chase is wide open.
Unbelievable, man. It was unbelievable how that happened. And of course, everyone's saying if they just had an offensive line. Look, Aaron Donald's been doing that to good offensive lines throughout the year too. But yes, you would at least been more equipped to be able to handle it. And the good news is reports, and again, they're just reports, they're just rumors. Bengals are reported and rumored to be involved with a lot of the major heavy hitters that are going to be available on the free agent market. For some of you Bengals fans, that is something to look forward to, I'm sure, as we'll get back into some of that coming up here in a moment. Doug Toby, so do the Bengals deserve 2 or 3 primetime games this coming up year? None. Lamar Shelley, the NFL plays 21 games if you include the Super Bowl. If college played 16, that would better equip for the transition. I would love to find out the percentage of college football players that go on to play pros. I don't know if it's smart of college to build things to help transition them into the NFL when you're only making adjustments for a tiny percent of those that actually go on to play to go play pro. To me, it's up to the universities to be able to make those adjustments for their programs to, if that's what Ohio State does, that's what Georgia does, that's what a lot of those teams do, and to help make the transition to the pros a lot easier. I see what you're saying, though, as far as that's concerned, but I don't think that college is saying, man, we need to really extend our season so we can have these guys better prepared for the NFL. Once they're out of college, they mean nothing to college football, because they're turning their focus to the guys that are going to be making them money moving forward. 518-1410, more of the Justin Kennard Show with Kevin Nash next.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
And now an important message from Exergen. A critical new FDA study proves that non-contact thermometers are not accurate. They also have inaccurate information on their labels regarding accuracy. New COVID strains are on the rise, and non-contact manufacturers are being irresponsible at a time when accuracy matters. Accurate temperature measurements are essential. Switch to Exergen because they are accurate and backed by over 100 clinical studies. Be sure, be accurate with Exergen. Learn more at Exergen.com.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
KTH Parts Industries has immediate openings for second and third shift production associates and equipment technicians. KTH promotes from within, offers an attractive benefit package including medical, dental, 401k, attendance bonus, and a competitive wage starting at $19 per hour with annual increases and shift differential. KTH will be hosting walk-in interviews Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. through 3 p.m. Please bring a resume and photo ID to apply or see other career opportunities at KTH.net. KTH is an equal opportunity employer.
Ready for a chicken sandwich that's a kick above the rest? Then Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken has just what you're looking for, with the spicy chicken sandwich combo at a great price. The kick you crave is here with a premium all-white meat chicken breast that's spicy marinated and hand-breaded with a kick. Served with creamy chipotle ranch all on a brioche bun, it's the chicken sandwich others aspire to be. Get the chicken sandwich perfected with the spicy chicken sandwich combo at a great price. Only at Lee's. Famous for chicken.
Hi, this is Eddie Sorrell, Body Shop Manager at Germain Honda of Beaver Creek. Our technicians have over 125 years of total experience. That means we can repair your vehicle correctly and efficiently. So when you need a dependable body shop, we're here. And we repair all makes and models with new state-of-the-art equipment to get you back on the road quickly. Plus, we offer loaner cars during service and free estimates. Stop by and see us. Germain Honda of Beaver Creek, State Route 35, just east of 675 between Xenia and Beaver Creek.
Ray Magliozzi here. eBay Motors has the right parts at the right prices. 122 million of them. And if there's one thing I love, it's great parts and great prices. eBay Motors, let's ride.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/find. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/find. That's ZipRecruiter.com/find. ZipRecruiter.com/find.
Hey y'all, this is your girl Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge? For a coupon and daily support, sign up at Metamucil.com today.
Right now, people are home with their pets more often, and I think now, especially with the shedding, they're more cognizant of what's going on and that it's an actual issue, and Dynavite has helped tremendously in our house with that.
I just heard the Dynavite commercial so many times that I said, you know what, I'll give it a shot, and I ordered it and tried it, and it worked.
The Dynavite, the being at home, working with them, they all love it. Me and Chewy are together 24/7.
Within 3 weeks, he's not scratching and itching, and he's an all-around happier dog.
DINOVITE.com.
We just got a $40,000 bill for your surgery.
What? The insurance company said it would be covered. What happened?
Unfortunately, this surprise medical bill scenario is far too common. Thanks to recently passed legislation, Ohioans will no longer receive surprise medical bills for emergency care or unexpected out-of-network care. If you believe that you've received a medical bill in error, contact the Ohio Department of Insurance at 1-800-686-1526 or insurance.ohio.gov.
Looking to buy or sell your home? Give Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty a call here today, 937-572-7425. Brad's a kick-ass dude. I promise you he will help you find the home of your dreams or help you sell the home of your nightmares to get the home of your dreams. Whatever it is, Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty, I promise you, will work as hard for you as he did for me, and I promise you he got us the perfect house, and I appreciate all his help on that, and I promise you he'll do the same for you. So, even though he has said before, he goes, sometimes I'm a little worried. He has had 3 people call. He has sold 2 of them homes. But he does say that when he listens to the crazy-ass callers that call into the show, he sometimes is worried at times. He's like, man, I wonder if I'm going to get one of the crazy callers. And I'm like, let me know when you do. I said,
oh, man.
Oh, yeah. That's why when he does chime in with his opinion here, I'm like, maybe you shouldn't. You got to be, I don't care if people don't like me. I feel bad for other people if opinions upset other, because you're not allowed to have different opinions of people. If you have the nerve to have an opinion that someone else doesn't, that makes you a crappy radio host. It's so funny how that works. But coming up here in a moment, going back the last 5 years, Kev, at least 40% of the teams that make the playoffs one year don't make it the next. That's a big number.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big number. Back in 2017, 7 teams that made the playoffs in 17 didn't make it in 18. That was 58%. That was 58%. Almost 60% of the teams that made it in 17 didn't make it in 18. 50% of the teams that made the playoffs last year didn't make it this year. So how many of the teams this year should feel safe and bulletproof that they will be playoff teams next year? We will get to that coming up here in just a few moments, but be thinking about that. 518-1410. I want to wrap up this conversation on the college football playoff expansion or lack thereof. Whether you like it or whether you hate it, you're stuck with it. And like I said, and I will say that had they come out today and said, we're expanding to 8, we're expanding to 12, I would have a couple bullet points in my opinions like, well, that sucks for the regular season, but we knew it was heading this way anyways, as far as because every point you made, Kev, is right. Like, I think at some point it will turn to that. But I think that right now college athletics has way too much to balance when it comes to name, image, and likeness, when it comes to, all of these conferences, reforming these conferences, or these conferences expanding and shrinking, and all this player movement, all the team movement. I just think that they have a lot on their plate, and it's one of those things where should we really be spending time trying to change something that out of all the issues we have, really this isn't one of them? Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of smart, to be quite honest with you, as far as that's concerned. Plus, like I said, we are coming off of the most amazing season in quite some time. It was the most entertaining season that I can remember. There were so many teams. Like, I thought when Ohio State made it the year before, I thought that was kind of a boring year. For one, COVID made it boring, but we kind of knew. We knew Alabama. We knew Clemson, and we knew Ohio State, just like we knew Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State the year before. It's this, like, that's the part that, but so this past year, to have Notre Dame back in the equation, to have the Bearcats in the equation, to have Michigan in the conversation, even though I can't stand Michigan, to have these teams, Oregon was involved late, after their win against Ohio State. There was a lot of teams in the mix this year. It took care of itself. It made it easy for the committee to put Cincinnati in. It's not like they put Cincinnati in over a more deserving team. There really was no one else that deserved to be at number 4, to be honest with you. Had Ohio State beat Michigan and then moved on to become Big Ten champs, at that point, I think the committee would have had a tough choice to make between Ohio State and Cincinnati, but that didn't happen. It made it pretty easy. Overall, the people that are super passionate about it changing from 4 and changing it to something else, that's fine that you feel that way, but I don't think it needs to be that way. Like, it can change that way, and there's probably a lot of pros and cons list. There's a lot of pros, to why it should expand, but I don't think that the cons totally outweigh the pros for, keeping it at a 14 playoff on top of that. 518-1410. Kev, who we got?
We got Shaw line too.
Shaw, how are you, sir?
Not bad. How about you guys?
Living the dream. It's a Friday. It's awesome outside. It's going to be nice and beautiful on Sunday. I'm going to golf for the first time. It's going to be a good weekend.
You're golfing in this soaking weather?
Why not?
My goodness. I work on a golf course, and we're soaked right now. Just wear your waders. Good Lord. Anyhow, I don't think I've ever changed my mind on a subject so much and so drastically like I have in the past 4 or 5 months. If you remember when this conversation was going on before the season started, I was adamant and pounding my chest that this thing needed to expand and yada, yada, yada. And I've completely reverted to basically, I guess, your side, Justin, because
the good side, the smart side, the right side.
But I can still give. But the thing about it is, though, and why I'm torn is I can still give all the arguments I gave before, and they still are valid, and maybe even more valid than they were this year before I was making it this year. But my thing about it is after watching it very closely with my team being in it this year and everything like that, it's just you look at the recruiting rankings and you see, okay, so Michigan was top 8 this year in recruiting, and you look at the gap between Ohio State and Michigan in the recruiting. So that was 4 to 8. That gap, that number, is the same gap from Michigan at 8 all the way down to the 22nd team in the nation. That is a huge, huge, huge gap. And that's where I'm at. Like, there's where the problem is with the college football playoff talk, because yes, it's depending on the colleges, and yes, it's depending on the universities and how you recruit these kids. But until something changes where the disparity between the top 4 or 5 teams in this country are, and again, I agree with your point, it's not those teams' problem. It's not. And I don't know, and that's where I'm at, and that's where I'm stuck. I don't know how this gets fixed, because it's going to be Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, soon to be Texas A&M, maybe Clemson hangs on, but that's it. Maybe Notre Dame. That's it. Like, I'm pretty sure Michigan has reached their peak. In the way that program stands right now, I don't see them winning a national championship. Just the university won't allow it to happen. And
they're not adjusting to name, image, and likeness. Like, they're doing a lot of things that prevent themselves from being able to recruit with everybody else consistently. I mean, they're not doing a terrible job recruiting, but that's the thing that's crazy is they're not doing a terrible job recruiting, and they're getting in their own way. If they started recruiting like everyone else and started playing the name, image, and likeness game like everybody else, and they started doing those, they could rival Ohio State with that, possibly. I'm not guaranteeing that, but I'm just saying, like, they're getting in their own way. The fact that they have just come out and have been adamantly against name, image, and likeness, not even efforting that, like, you're losing commits before you even go try for some of these kids. Like, that's what's unfortunate for them, or fortunate for us.
They just signed this huge thing with name, image, and likeness, and they're trying to get on board. But if you seriously look at it and you seriously read about it, it's what Ohio State and all the schools first did before they revamped what they were doing. So, I mean, Michigan's still behind, even though they just signed this huge thing. It's just, but this isn't a take on Michigan and the rest of college football playoff. It's just, after watching those 3 games, like, the disparity is sickening. And no, we shouldn't expand, because going to your point early in the season, who was going to make it this year outside of there? Like you said, there was no argument for who should have been making it this year. All the homers are going to make their argument for certain schools around the country. Yes, but realistically, when you're looking at it, and then you throw the 4 teams in, you could have had those two teams playing in Indianapolis. You could have wrote that down and had that played out before the games were even played. That's my sickness with it, and that's my problem with it, is you can sit here right now, because the way the bowl played out and the way the bowl seasons played out and the way recruiting went, you can almost write the 4 teams in the playoff next year, right now. Write it down right now and go back next January, next December, and see how far you are off right now.
Yeah, usually the discrepancies are usually at your 3s and your 4s, which is obviously expected, but it's usually at the 4. I mean, the 4, people want 8. We're having a hard time finding 4 quality teams to put in the playoff, which, by the way, that shouldn't be why. Like, the NCAA tournament is 68 teams, and, there's a lot of teams that make it, that fill out, that don't have a shot to win a national championship.
But that's apples and oranges.
But thank you. That's what I was trying to tell you last year, Shaw, but you've at least admitted that, but that's what I was trying to tell people, as far as, like, it's not the same. It's okay to put more non-championship quality teams in the March Madness, because you're putting 68 teams in. When you're talking about 4, 8, 10, or even 12 seems like a lot compared to 4, but 12's not a lot when you really talk about how many good quality teams are out there, but it's still not 12 national championship contenders. I mean, look how many teams Ohio State, I wanted in at number 4, but they were 2 losses. They didn't deserve to be at that 4th spot. Utah was pretty dang solid, but I couldn't put them at number 4. They had 2 losses. Like, we're trying to expand it just to let teams off the hook for not playing high quality football consistently. That's the problem I have with the 4-team college, or with the college football playoff expansion talk. But Shaw, we only have about 30 seconds. I'll let you finish your point.
I couldn't agree with you more, as much as it pains me, because I thought I had a valid point earlier in the season. But looking back on it, who we arguing to get in? Pitt, NC State, North Carolina? They don't have a shot of winning 2-3 games in that college football playoff. We all know it, but we just want it because we want more college football. But I'm going to get off here. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
See you, Shaw. Like I said, I'm right. It's that simple. I mean, it's exhausting being right all the time. I'm joking, because I'm coming off of a very long NFL season where I was wrong a lot. But, when I do get something right, Oh, you're one of those guys? Yes, and not because I'm cocky. It's because I'm wrong all the time. So one of the few times I am right, I have to let people know I'm not right about anything. This really isn't a right or wrong thing. Because 12-team college football playoff, I will watch all 6 of those games. Those games will be freaking fantastic. The matchups, the storylines. I just don't think that, for that month and a half of storylines, does that outweigh all the storylines and all the excitement that generates and buzz that starts all the way from September? You eliminate September and October and November for a month and a half of that. But, college basketball, people say, well, it's worth it for college basketball. Well, when that tournament makes more money than the college football playoff and everything else combined,
right?
There's a reason that they're college basketball is not trying to find a way to make that more interesting in the regular season, because until it starts impacting them money-wise for the March Madness, who cares? So, but for football, it's a little different. For football, everyone's eating. College football playoff is eating. The regular season networks are eating. NBC's eating. ESPN's eating. CBS is eating. Everyone's eating in college football. That's the difference to where in college basketball, not everyone's eating, but everyone's eating because of that 1 month.
Right.
Kind of is what it is. Let's switch gears a little bit. 518-1410. We have, a 3-minute break coming up. I know Charlie, I think, is a Bengals fan, Charlie?
Yes.
Bengals fan, Charlie. I see, Jesse? Is it that Jesse?
Jesse, yes.
Yeah, Bengals fan, Jesse as well.
Heisenberg, Jesse.
See Mike and Eric on hold, too. We got quite a few of you on hold. We'll step away. I have a 3-minute break. Can you guys wait 3 minutes? We'll check in with you to make sure. The lines are full at the moment. We'll fill those up again once we sift through some of these calls. In 2017, 58% of the teams that made the NFL playoffs did not make it in 2018. In 2018, 41% of the teams that made the playoffs that year didn't make it in 19. 45% of the teams that made it in 2019 did not make it in 20. 50% of the teams in 20 did not make it in 2021. So it's safe to say that at least 40, at the most 60% of the teams that made the playoffs this year will not make the NFL playoffs next year. Who's the most vulnerable of the group of teams that made the playoffs this year? 518-1410. Take a look at that, and let's discuss. Are the Bengals bulletproof? That's the question I have. Are the Bengals bulletproof? Kev, are your Steelers bulletproof?
Black and yellow.
There's a lot of teams that I have circled as vulnerable. Are the Bengals one of them? No, I'm not a hater. I just want to have this conversation. But 518-1410. We'll be back in a moment.
The Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy, a high near 32. Tonight's going to be partly cloudy and breezy, a low near 30. And tomorrow's going to be mainly clear and sunny, a high near 30. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Exergen would like you to know about an important new study by the FDA. It confirms what the medical community has always known. Non-contact thermometers are not accurate, and they fail to meet FDA requirements for accuracy in labeling. With new strains of COVID on the rise, we can't afford to tolerate rampant false temperature readings from non-contact thermometers. Accurate temperature measurements are essential. You need Exergen thermometers because they are accurate and backed by over 100 clinical studies. Be sure, be accurate with Exergen. Learn more at Exergen.com.
Make the big game even bigger with your new TV and sound system from Audio Etc. There is nothing better than a home theater or high-fidelity music system from Audio Etc. 4K is amazing, but just imagine the 8K experience. Come to Audio Etc's crazy cool showroom today and experience 8K TVs and projectors. Audio Etc. has tons of new inventory in stock, while everybody else is back-ordered or out of stock. Get special deals on TVs, short-throw projectors for 100-inch and 130-inch, and Sonos soundbars from $399, all the way to high-end Dream systems. Audio Etc. can bring any game home. It's better than being there. You have to see it to believe the incredible quality of the picture and sound. It's all about perspective. Audio Etc. has the brands, the deals, and the excitement. Audio Etc. powered by Klipsch, Bowers & Wilkins, SVS, Marantz, Denon, Sony, and a whole list of high-performance brands that you've probably never heard of.
Audio Etc's crazy cool showroom. Here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus, home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well, medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Ray Magliozzi here. eBay Motors has the right parts at the right prices. 122 million of them. And if there's one thing I love, it's great parts and great prices. eBay Motors, let's ride.
Veterans, were you exposed to harmful burn pit smoke while serving overseas? The Department of Veterans Affairs has recognized and is providing benefits to veterans who suffer with asthma, rhinitis, and sinusitis as a result of burn pit exposure. If you served in the Southwest Asia Theater of Operations or Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Syria, or Djibouti and suffer from any respiratory illnesses that you believe is a result of exposure to burn pits, contact the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission at 937-225-4801.
Now is the time to experience the Brookhaven difference. Don't miss your chance to live in an active retirement community, make new friends, and enjoy chef-cooked meals. 1 month free when you schedule your tour by February 28th by calling 937-833-4006. At Brookhaven, we have everything you need to live an active, independent lifestyle. Call 833-4006 today. Brookhaven, expect to be impressed.
Ohio has over 920,000 diabetics. If you are a diabetic, take a step in the right direction by having your feet checked routinely by a podiatric physician, the most qualified doctors to care for your feet. Adding a podiatrist to your healthcare team can help you better manage the effects of diabetes on your feet. Ohio Foot and Ankle Medical Association podiatric physicians are located throughout the state. For more information or to find a member of the Ohio Foot and Ankle Medical Association near you, visit associationsadvanceohio.com.
Whether you're at home, at work, or in your car, tune in to ESPN 1410 Wing AM or stream us live at wingam.com.
Well, the football season is officially done, but there's still so much going on and so much still to talk about. NBA All-Star Game this weekend. Now, for those of you who are in your car, oh, God, I hate the NBA, that's fine. Just don't concern you. A lot of things that I hear in life that I don't seem to care about, but I don't have to make everyone's life miserable around me by making sure I tell everybody, hey, I don't care about this. I hate this, actually. We'll get through this. Obi Toppin coming back to Ohio, going to be in the dunk contest tomorrow, which you can catch right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Excited for that. Obi was in the dunk contest last year, but it was a little last year's dunk contest wasn't very exciting. It wasn't because of the athletes in it. It just wasn't. There was no fans. You know, that's the thing. You see these big exciting dunks, and then you kind of add on top of it the feel of the All-Star of the fans at the All-Star game. They're kind of feeding off of it. It's a little different. Last year too, it was in the middle of the All-Star game on top of it. So with this, it's a little different. Obviously, it's kind of back to normal as normal could be. There's going to be a ton of fans there. Obi's going to feed off the energy of the crowd in Cleveland. It's going to be pretty dang cool. I'm excited to watch that. Also, reason to tune in tomorrow on 1410 ESPN Radio if you can't tune in. The skills competition or the 3-point contest will feature Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard, how about him? He had I think he had 9 threes last night. He went off.
He only missed one. Whatever, it was either 8 for 9 or 9 for 10, one of them.
Yeah, he went off last night, and the Clippers won, and it's pretty cool watching the success that he is having in the league, and he gets to come back to Ohio. He has to leave beautiful Los Angeles to come back to Cleveland, Ohio. Ugh.
Whoa, watch your tongue. That's my hometown there, buddy.
As I was saying, Cleveland, Ohio, right? Go Browns. No, nonetheless, it's going to be pretty exciting to watch Luke Kennard in the 3-point contest and Obi Toppin in the dunk contest as far as that's concerned. All right, I wanted to have this conversation because I found this interesting that you started. I heard a stat the other day that on average 8 teams that make the playoffs one year. On average, 8 teams miss it the next year. So I said, well, I'm just going to go back to a couple years. I'm going to go back about 4 years. I went back to 2017. And of the teams that made the playoffs in 2017, now keep in mind the playoff field expanded to 14 last year in 2020. I shouldn't say last year, I guess. Wow, it is 2022 now. I'm still adjusting. So 2 years ago, I guess, technically. But in 2020, it expanded to 14. 12 teams in the playoff in 17, 12 and 18, 12 and 19, and then 14 and 20 and 21. But in 17 of the 12 teams, this is a high number, Kev. 7 of the 12 teams that made the playoffs in 17 did not make it the next year. One of those teams was your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, that was the season that they went 13-3 after a 3-13 season, and they were a quarter away from beating the Patriots to get to the to win an AFC championship and get to the Super Bowl. They missed it. The Titans, Bills, Vikings, Falcons, and Panthers. And that Falcons team is the one that made it to the Super Bowl, was up 28-3 and ended up losing to the New England Patriots and Tom Brady. So they didn't make it in 18. So in 2018, 12 teams that made the playoffs, 5 of those teams, 41% of those teams did not make it in 19. 5 teams in 19 did not make it in 20. There was 14 teams that made the playoff in 2020, Kev.
Mm-hmm.
7 of those 14, 50%, half of the playoff field did not make it in 2021. So you look at the teams that made it out of the AFC, the Titans, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, the Raiders, Patriots, and Steelers. Those are your AFC teams. Your NFC teams that made the playoffs, the Packers, Bucks, Cowboys, Rams, Cards, Niners, and Eagles. I look at the Eagles, and right away, they're vulnerable. They out. The Steelers without Big Ben, even with Big Ben making the playoffs this year, was a surprise. I got to put them out. But you start looking at the rest of the field, and you got to feel pretty damn confident about all of those teams. I still look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even without Tom Brady. I still think that outside of the Packers, assuming that Aaron Rodgers stays in the Rams, I still think that the Bucs are the 3rd or 4th best team in the NFC, and that's without even knowing who their quarterback's going to be. That's just how talented that roster is. Now, assuming they get Godwin, but all reports are indicating that Godwin's going to stay in Tampa. I still think a Jameis Winston they'll reunite. I still think that's a possibility. But I'm going to go at least 5. There's been at least 5 teams since 2017 that made the playoffs one year, missed it the next. My 5 teams, the Raiders out of the AFC. I have the Raiders missing the playoffs next year. I thought they were an interesting team this year. They're just not very exciting. They seem to be missing a spark. Obviously, the Josh McDaniels era is about to start in Las Vegas. We'll see what kind of changes he makes. Can he take that offense to the next level? I look at that Raiders offense and say it's not very exciting, but Derek Carr had a better season statistically than Joe Burrow. That's what I find interesting. Like that, at least from a total yard standpoint. I mean, you can go find a couple bullet points to say why Burrow was better. I think Burrow's better. I just find it interesting. Like Derek Carr threw for a lot of yards. Like he had a great year. But I see the Raiders missing it. I just think there's been too many. They've had more pieces leave than come in. They've had way too many pieces exit with the drama with Gruden, with the drama with Ruggs, and with everything that's been going on. I just see the Raiders as being very vulnerable. I think that the AFC is going to improve dramatically. It's going to make it way more difficult for a team like the Raiders, who just barely made it, to make it in 2022. Out of the NFC, I have the Arizona Cardinals. I think right now that's one of the most talented rosters in all of the National Football League. But I look at the Cardinals and the drama that's going on with Kyler Murray. This isn't a small problem. This isn't just a player, scrubbing his social media of all team references. You have the organization leaking stuff to discredit him.
Mm-hmm.
Say what you want about the Browns, and the Browns, there have been some comments about them looking at some veteran quarterbacks, but nobody has trashed Baker Mayfield. No one has come out and said that Baker points the finger at other people. No one has come out and said that Baker has an attitude problem. No one has come out and said any of these things about Baker Mayfield. In fact, the only thing that's come out from Cleveland about concerns about Baker Mayfield is just his ability to be able to play at a higher level. That's it. So the fact that teams don't usually come out and voice their opinion like this, but stuff has been leaked about the Cardinals that has been purposely planted by them in the eyes of most, pointing the finger at Kyler Murray. I just think that there's something there. They had a late season collapse for the second straight season. They still were able to hold, because of how hot they started the season, they were able to hold on to it, kind of like the Steelers 2 years ago, that 11-0 start. They were one of the worst teams to close out the season, but they had done so much great things to start the season that they were able to ride that storm a little bit until, Cleveland won at Pittsburgh. Did you remember that game, Kev?
Man.
So I
remember the 2 games that happened this season?
Yes, I do. But he was injured. The Raiders, the Cardinals, I have missing the 2022 playoffs of the teams that made it this year. I have the Philadelphia Eagles missing the playoffs next year. I don't know how in the hell they pulled it off this year. Jalen Hurts wasn't terrible, but that was one of the more painful playoff teams I watched. When you think about the fact that they expanded the playoffs this year, there were 2 teams that had no business being in it, and you don't want to talk about playoff expansion for college football. The two teams that made the NFL playoffs this year weren't playoff teams, but they were playoff teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers and, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles. That is why I have both of those teams on my list. I have the Raiders, I have the Cardinals, I have the Eagles and Steelers, and 4 of my teams that I have that made the playoffs this year that will not make it next year. However, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers without Big Ben, we've seen them finish around 8-8. He's never had a losing record. 17-game regular season. I don't care how good a coach he is, and I love Mike Tomlin for the job he just did this past year with how crazy everything was. But you're not making the playoffs, even in expanded playoffs, when you have Mason Rudolph as your starting quarterback. Now, can this list change for me if they end up pulling off a crazy thing? I mean, I think a Jimmy Garoppolo makes them safe. I think he'd be the worst quarterback in the AFC North, but I think he would be elevated because of Mike Tomlin. So that's what would be interesting. So the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Eagles, the Steelers. Now it gets a little interesting. Now I start looking at these teams. I know the Cowboys could be very just emotionally up and down. You can never trust the Cowboys. But in the AFC, the Titans are untouchable. The Chiefs are untouchable. The Bills are untouchable. The Bengals are not untouchable. I can't put them on my list of teams I'm going to pick not to make the playoffs next year, but they're vulnerable. They're not bulletproof. For one, there's a lot working against them. I know that they have a lot of cap space, but sure, you could say they're going to address the offensive line. You have to trust that they're going to do it and that they're going to do it the right way. I don't trust that they'll do it the right way. They also have one hell of a schedule where they play the Chiefs, they play the Bills. They're going to play a Ravens team that's actually a fully built Ravens team. They're not going to play the JV team that they played twice last year. They're going to actually play a real Ravens team. You got to play the Browns twice, so that's 2 automatic losses right there. And they play the Patriots. They play a lot of really good teams next year, Kev. So I'm not bashing the Bengals here, but I can't look at that situation and say I guarantee that they're going to make the playoffs, mainly because the Ravens will return to full strength. The Browns are going to be back at full strength. The Steelers, if they pull off a deal to get an Aaron Rodgers, which is unlikely but not unlikely, that's interesting. If they get a Jimmy Garoppolo, there's so many things. They're not going to dominate the AFC North next year. Not going to do the stupid thing I did last year and said they wouldn't get a win in the AFC North. All I'm saying is they're not going to dominate it.
You're dialing it back a little bit.
I'm dialing it back a little bit. They've earned the right to have me dial it back a bit because they've earned a little of my respect, and I'm sure that helps you guys sleep at night, right? But no, I'm not putting the Bengals on the list, but they're pretty damn close. So I have the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Eagles, the Steelers. The Patriots and the Bengals are kind of very similar. They had seasons they weren't supposed to have. They were better than we had anticipated. The Steelers with the Patriots with the rookie quarterback, and the Bengals, of course, not just having a better year than expected, going all the way to the damn Super Bowl. Unreal. But I have those two teams as vulnerable. But if I had to pick another team on this list to miss the playoffs for next year, it's probably for me going to have to be, assuming Aaron Rodgers is leaving Green Bay, I have the Packers missing the playoffs next year. That's assuming Aaron Rodgers is leaving. But if Aaron Rodgers is back, it is between the Bengals and the Patriots for me as far as who is that 5th team. I'm not stirring the pot here. I listed very good reasons as to why I'm concerned about the Bengals.
Do they have a pot emoji?
I'm sure. They could find
if there's a pot emoji, drop that in the chat, please.
Yeah, I'm sure. Or a middle finger emoji, as I'm sure I'm getting a lot of those. I haven't checked the chat section in a few moments out of fear of this segment. I'm not stirring the pot. That's not what this is. I promise you, this is exactly how I feel. I look at the AFC. The Titans, Chiefs, and Bills are locks. That's it. Out of the AFC, those are the only 3 teams that are locks. Because how the Ravens, how do they come back next year? They're going to come back bigger, better than ever. They're going to come back healthy. All right? Bengals, you're not beating up a healthy Ravens team. You could probably beat a healthy Ravens team. I'm not disrespecting you that much. But you're not going to drop 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Jamar Chase isn't going to eat them for lunch like he did all last year, okay? They're going to be more equipped to handle that, okay, when they're healthy. So J.K. Dobbins will be back. It'll just be a more balanced team. Lamar hopefully is healthy for them. So, again, the Bengals aren't going to dominate the AFC North like they did last year. Their out-of-conference games are freaking insane. And you're drafting late. You're not getting as many good players this year as what you were getting in years past. Oh, man, we've been drafting really good the last couple of years. Oh, yeah? Well, it's easy when you have the number 1 overall pick. It's easy when you have the number 5 pick. It's easy when you have the number 1 pick in the 2nd round. It's easy when that's happened. It's not easy when you're picking 30th and 31st in the draft. It's not easy after all the good players have been picked through. Now you got to rely on one of the smallest, if not the smallest, scouting departments in all of the NFL. to make the right decisions on some of these guys that aren't kickers, that's going to be the big thing for them. So one more time, and then I want to get yours. The Raiders, the Cardinals, the Eagles, the Steelers. And I'm going to put the Packers there.
One more time.
The Raiders, the Cardinals, the Eagles, the Steelers. Those are my 4 teams that I am confident will not make the playoffs next year, because everyone knows how confident I always am with football. And I'm going to put the Packers on that list. If that's assuming Aaron Rodgers is out. Now he's back. They're not on my list. So if Aaron Rodgers does come back, the next 2 teams up on my list as far as teams that are vulnerable are the Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals. Not because they're not good or talented, but the whole AFC is talented, and the Chargers are better than the Eagles. The Chargers are better than the Steelers.
They going for it on 4th down from their own 20 still?
So the Chargers are better than the Steelers and better than the Eagles, and they were in the playoffs this year. The AFC is loaded. They're stacked. The Chargers will continue to get better. All these teams are going to continue to get better, and that's why I'm saying I just don't think it's going to be as easy for the Bengals as everyone thinks. I'm not putting them in my 5, but they're number 7 on my list as far as if I had to keep going down. They will move up to 6 if the Aaron Rodgers does come back to Green Bay. That's for sure.
So much like yourself, I did a lot of assuming here. I'm assuming Aaron Rodgers is coming back to the Green Bay Packers.
Okay,
so
fair.
they are not on my list.
I should have asked you that to see it so we're on the same page, but that's why I gave you my either-or scenario.
Yep, no problem. I'm assuming that the San Francisco 49ers are going to move away from one of your favorite quarterbacks, Jimmy G. I'm assuming that. So for me, the state of Pennsylvania is not making the playoffs. So that would be the Philadelphia Eagles. That will also be my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm assuming that we are going to be operating with Mason Rudolph or our beloved Buckeye at the quarterback position. I'm assuming that we're not going to be winning a lot of games. I did that this year, and we still made the playoffs. Shouts out to my Steelers. Hopefully, they prove me wrong. So I got the Steelers and Eagles definitely missing the playoffs. Also have the Raiders missing the playoffs. The reason I have the Raiders missing the playoffs, I have the Chiefs winning the AFC West, and I have the Chargers. I have the management of the Chargers talking to their coach about kicking the ball, about punting the ball, about kicking field goals when you're in scoring position. So I'm assuming that he's going to right some of those wrongs. He's still going to gamble a lot because that's in his nature, but I'm assuming he's going to dial it back some and get points and win more games than they lose. So ultimately, I think they take that spot from the Raiders, them being the Chargers. The number 14 for me, I'm with you, man. The Arizona Cardinals. It's not just that Kyler Murray scrubbed his Instagram. It's that the organization is coming back at him. And, you know, all that situation about the organization not giving coaches bonuses and everything like that because you get a bonus for going to the playoffs. They've withheld those bonuses from the coaches. I'm not sure the latest on that story, but that seems like dysfunction. That seems like dysfunction from the top down. Seems dysfunction from the ownership and management to the coaches. Now it's down to the player and your head guy, your quarterback. He's unhappy. So there's dysfunction there. So I have them on that list for that reason alone. And also I have on my list, making number 5, the San Francisco 49ers. I'm assuming that Jimmy G is not going to be there. I'm assuming that they traded up and Trey Lance is going to be their starting quarterback. Yes, their defense is real good. Yes, he's a heck of a play caller, but I just don't see that working out for them so well this upcoming season. I see other teams making a leap and jumping them. You know, obviously they're in the same side with the Rams. Rams are the champs, right? Everybody's going to be picking the Rams to make the playoffs and everything like that. So my odd team out, not making my top 5, I got 2. I got the Cincinnati Bengals on that team to watch. They won the division.
I couldn't put them in the 5, but
they're not in the 5. I don't have the Bengals in the 5.
They're not bulletproof like fans are saying.
Yeah, I don't think they're bulletproof because on paper, yeah, they got a lot of money to spend. But like we said, I'm doing a lot of assuming here. I'm assuming that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to do what they've always done. Go the route of not paying offensive linemen.
Have the least resistance.
I'm going to go and say, hey, man, they won the division. So they're playing a harder schedule this year. So I'm going to go that they're on the watch list. Another team that is on the watch list and probably should be higher than the Cincinnati Bengals, in my opinion, the Dallas Cowboys. If things don't go well for them in September, I'm talking 3-1 in September, they ain't making it. as much talent is on that roster, as much as I try to support Dak Prescott and everything like that, you want to talk about dysfunction. They are the poster child for dysfunction. We can talk about Jerry Jones having his own radio show. We can talk about Mike McCarthy and the late game clock management situations. We can talk about Dak Prescott not being a top 10 quarterback. We can talk about Dak Prescott running and not sliding on that. Whatever we can talk about CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper dropping the ball. We can talk about all that type of stuff. The fact of the matter is they got the stank on them, and they had the stank on them since the 90s. So we could talk about, oh, man, it's Dak's fault. We can talk about it's Tony Romo's fault when he didn't make the playoffs and win playoff games. We can talk about Quincy Carter when he was the quarterback and now went in and playing in playoff games. They got the stank on them. So when the Dallas Cowboys are bad, they're real bad. So when things hit the fan for the Cowboys, they poop themselves. So if they don't win at least 3 games in September, they ain't making the lofts. So they're not in the 5. They're on the watch, just like the Bengals.
Well, the Cowboys, too. So I think that the Bengals are better than the Cowboys.
But I think they're definitely way better coached, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
I think they're better than the Cowboys, but the reason I think the Cowboys are more safe than the Bengals is because of the division that the Cowboys play in. The Cowboys have made the division on they've made the playoffs on bad years because the Eagles are bad. The Washington Generals, what the hell are they? Commanders. They're bad. Who's the other team? Why am I missing the other team? There's Washington,
Giants.
Philly.
You know what? They probably are going to make the playoffs by default.
So they're the most talented team that even if they underperform, they're still going to end up by default being better than So I agree with everything you said. Like, because I had the Cowboys on there. Someone called me a homer because I didn't say the Cowboys. I'm like, no, I had the Cowboys originally. And then when I started looking at it, the NFC is not very good.
Somebody has to win the division.
Somebody has to win the division. The NFC, they call it the NFC least for a reason. The Cowboys are explosive offensively, but I don't trust their coach. I think that they are kind of mentally weak from the top down. You know, if 1 or 2 bad things happens in the offseason, 1 or 2 bad things happens in a game, they crumble. They're not a very strong unit. The Bengals are more talented. I think they're a better team, but they play in a division that they could be in first. They could finish in last. And I'm here to say this. The last place team in the AFC North is not going to be a bad football team. Whoever finished, you could word it however you want. It's going to be a 9-win team. The AFC North is stacked from top to bottom. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be an 8 to 9-win team next year. They'll most likely be last. But if your last place team is an 8 or 9-win team, same thing this past year, 8 or 9 wins for talking for the Browns and the Ravens. That's a good division. And 1 or 2 things. Look how many games that the Bengals won this year that were, they had to hold on for dear life to beat the Jaguars of all teams. There was a lot of things that happened for the Bengals that were, those things can equally go wrong for you in those close game situations unless you're blowing teams out. But when you're not playing the Ravens' third string secondary, you weren't finding yourself in those blowout situations. So to me, things can quickly go against you. Look at that Niners game. That's a prime example. Yes, a lot of things went right for them and other teams went bad for them. 1 or 2 games that don't go your way could put you in last as a 9-win team. So that's not a shot at the Bengals. That's more propping up how good that division is. The Browns are legitimate. I don't care how many of you hate on them. You can hate on them all you want. Bottom line is they weren't healthy and played bad this year. They were injured, beat up, COVID, all of that. Not an excuse, it's reality, but it's easier to pretend that it's an excuse to make you feel better about the fact that you beat up on you didn't beat up on the Browns. You just beat up on a bad Ravens team and a bad Steelers team as far as I'm concerned. So, no, the Bengals aren't in my 5 that I'm guaranteeing won't make it next year, but they are just on the outside looking in, like I said. Which team is more in control, the Bengals or the Patriots? Like, which team has a better chance of making the playoffs next year? Again, it's kind of like the Cowboys conversation. Bengals are better than the Patriots, in my opinion.
Well, the Patriots, because
the division, right?
They play the Jets twice. Mm-hmm. And, obviously, we're doing a lot of assuming here. We're assuming that, all right, all the guys from the Ravens are going to be back to full strength and everything like that. We're assuming the Steelers are going to be back to full strength. We're assuming that the Browns are going to be back to full strength. If everybody splits with everybody in the AFC North, like, that's a very likely scenario that everybody wins
at home
and loses on the road, because the AFC North is just that tough. The AFC East hasn't been that tough. It wasn't that tough when Tom Brady was dominating and the Patriots were dominating, like that back half and everything like that. The Patriots just were winning because, well, not just because, they had the Jets on their schedule twice. And people could say that about the Steelers, where, you know, the Browns and Bengals were never good at the same time. You know what I'm saying? It was either the Ravens were good and the Bengals were good, and then there was a stretch where it was just the Ravens and Steelers were good. But now everybody's good. So you have to bring your A game for sure.
518-1410, 518-1410. So Ryan Strauss on Facebook says, I'm surprised you guys didn't say Tampa. They have no quarterback right now. They have no quarterback right now. And again, we're doing that, the assumption thing. I guess if we had to go back and do it as rosters are constructed right now, I wouldn't have the Packers on mine. I would probably have to put the Bengals as being, I'm not trying to stir. The Bengals are vulnerable. They are, not because they're not talented. It's
I would say everybody's vulnerable.
Teams.
I come from the assumption that everybody's vulnerable. Like we talked about this
is better. That's all.
Oh, for sure. I just look at it like we talked about over the summer, and like all the additions that teams make in free agency and draft. Like everything looks good on paper, but once the ball is snapped, stuff happens. Dudes get hurt. Like
I'm not doing the injury thing.
No, I'm just saying.
Say that no one has a chance of making it back because guys can get hurt.
Has that ever happened?
Never.
Has that ever happened? Like where no team has came back to the playoffs the next year?
Well, no. But no. To your point, yes, injuries. Like I just always in my head, I don't do the injury thing because
can't predict it.
You can't predict it. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of the severity of it. But like I hate when people say, well, if they stay healthy, they could be the best team. Well, then they're talented. If you're saying they're talented enough to be the best team, then they're the best team. We can't always use injuries, but like unless you're talking about Anthony Davis and the Lakers. All right. So I see Charlie, I see Jesse, some more on hold. We're going right to you guys. Okay. We're going right to you guys on the other side. You heard what we had to say. Your thoughts again, 518-1410. We'll be back.
It's the Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
The Big Hoopla is celebrating their 10th anniversary this year and will hit a milestone 100,000 tickets donated to airmen, their families, and students when combined with Hometown Heroes events in those 10 years. This furthers our region's commitment to supporting our military during the 75th anniversary year of the Air Force. The 2022 NCAA First Four Men's Basketball Tournament, Tuesday, March 15 and Wednesday, March 16 at UD Arena. Get your tickets and donate to be a part of our mission at DaytonHoopla.com.
When your roommate borrows your car every day, it might be a blind spot. Even having people over to jump around on your trampoline. Yep, it also might be a blind spot. Blind spots are all the surprising things that might need more coverage that you weren't aware of. Good thing Allstate agents can help you find those blind spots while watching out for your wallet.
Call me, Dave Mowdy, at 325-2474. That's 325-2474. Right across the street from Frisch's on East Main Street in Springfield. Based on coverage selected, savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability.
And now an important message from Exergen. A critical new FDA study proves that non-contact thermometers are not accurate. They also have inaccurate information on their labels regarding accuracy. New COVID strains are on the rise, and non-contact manufacturers are being irresponsible at a time when accuracy matters. Accurate temperature measurements are essential. Switch to Exergen because they are accurate and backed by over 100 clinical studies. Be sure, be accurate with Exergen. Learn more at Exergen.com.
Refresco, the world's largest independent bottler of beverages, is holding a hiring event this Saturday, February 19th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 300 Industry Drive in Carlisle, Ohio. Offers on the spot and a generous hiring bonus depending on position. Excellent pay, work culture, and benefits. Recently increased wages and an annual performance bonus. Located right off I-75 between Dayton and Cincinnati. Apply today at refresco.com/careers and enter Carlisle in the search field. Don't miss the hiring event this Saturday. Refresco is an equal opportunity employer.
Don't put it off any longer. You know it's time. Time for a bathroom upgrade by Bath Creations. Bath Creations is a leader in bathroom renovations, providing the very best value in bath and shower remodeling and proudly made in the USA. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful modern bathroom that's safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save $500 off your purchase right now. Visit Poe Avenue in Dayton or online at mybathcreations.com. And upgrade today.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Can you imagine going to work every day and loving it? Well, that's what we do at Alpha Media Dayton, and we are looking for a digital sales specialist to join our team. We offer a competitive, guaranteed base plus bonuses. For more info, check out the digital sales specialist position at alphamediausa.com/careers.
Hi, this is Keith Byers. If you suffer from chronic joint pain, don't assume that steroid shots, pain pills, and surgery are your only options. You can now get real, lasting, life-changing relief from QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in using biologic therapies to repair damaged tissue in your aching joints. The success rate is staggering. People with knee and back pain, shoulder pain, and hip pain, they're moving again, enjoying life with the help of QC Kinetics. This advanced, unique treatment protocol uses natural biologic agents, mostly from your own body. These powerful, highly concentrated growth factors are put directly into your affected joint, going to work to soothe the inflammation and restore damaged tissue. Finally, a new, different, highly successful approach to dealing with joint pain. Is it time you got a second opinion? Call QC Kinetics now and wake up to a life without pain. Call QC Kinetics at 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325.
Ray Magliozzi here. eBay Motors has the right parts at the right prices. 122 million of them. And if there's one thing I love, it's great parts and great prices. eBay Motors, let's ride.
All right, we are back. Justin Kennard, Kev Nash with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station. Kev Nash, a ginormous wrestling fan. In fact, that's why his radio name is Kev Nash. He's a big NWO fan.
That's my real name.
Sure. But do you hear the rumors? Even you, casual wrestling fan, that Stone Cold Steve Austin could be returning at WrestleMania coming up to wrestle. Really? He'll be returning to the ring, yes. See, The Undertaker today, real sports news, folks. Wrestling is real. He's being inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame.
Good for him, man. Mm-hmm. Good for him.
Of all the fake fights and fake storylines, he was one of the best to ever fake fight and do the fake. Yeah, is what it is.
You said fake. I didn't say.
Oh, I have to beat people to the punch because there's these losers that are out there. Like you're saying, people who like wrestling are losers, but like the losers are the ones that sit back and watch what other people enjoy and try to be the ones right there to just make their lives miserable. Oh, wrestling's fake, and they say it as if they are like breaking news to this individual. Like, you watch it, it's fake, right? I had no idea. Thanks for sharing. Wow. Like, anyways, go back to watching your cartoons, please. Go back to watching your
anime,
your scripted reality TV. Yeah, I'm sure that's not, never mind. 518-1410. We welcome you back. It's the Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. So I never finished my comment earlier as far so Ryan had said, I'm surprised you guys didn't say Tampa. They have no quarterback right now. They don't have a quarterback right now, but assuming that Godwin's coming back, which all reports indicate that he is, I think Jameson's up back there. I think a good quality quarterback, not a great one. You're not going to get a Tom Brady, but it's the NFC. It's bad. The NFC is bad right now. It's about as bad as it's ever been. I mean, you've lost Drew Brees, you've lost, Tom Brady. You're about to lose potentially Aaron Rodgers if that actually is the case. I mean, while the AFC is just one big youth movement, the NFC is kind of older and stale and just kind of bleh. So, to me, Tampa has one of the more exciting rosters. Now, let's say within the next couple of weeks, guys just start leaving. Like the Bucs are just letting guys go. They're not bringing guys back. They're trading. They're just trying to get draft picks, and they hit rebuild. Then we can have that conversation. Then that's an easy conversation to have. But right now, I think Tampa's like, we don't even have to be great. We don't even have to have a Tom Brady to still win this division. We don't need a Tom Brady to still have a chance to win in the playoffs. I think that's why Jameis Winston makes a lot of sense. That's why I don't have Tampa on my list of teams that could miss the playoffs next year. But that's because the roster's still constructed as is. This is probably a topic we should have done further into the offseason, but, everyone's already doing this. Patrick Mahomes isn't even a top 5 quarterback in the league. I mean, this instant reaction, like this bias thing that everyone just has immediately coming out of the Super Bowl is just unreal. So that's my take on that.
How many guys leave the team they were drafted by and actually go back to them in the NFL? It happens a ton in baseball and everything like that. But does that happen frequently in football? Because you talk about Jameis going back there. Everything that was going on between him and Arians, like the friction that they had, I'm not sure that can work. And then also from the Tampa perspective, like, can they trust that he's fixed? Like, did Sean Payton and Drew Brees fix Jameis Winston, so to speak?
What's better than what they have now? They took that. Who's the quarterback from
Trask?
Who?
Trask,
the Florida kid, right? I still think you roll Jameis out there before you do this guy that you took a chance on last year. Look, I'll be surprised if this roster, I don't know. There's some stories coming out now that I guess Tom Brady, one of the reasons he was pushed to retire is because he did start butting heads with Bruce Arians down the stretch.
No.
It sounds like Ron's team is not as buttoned up as what he was trying to convince everybody. Ryan Strauss said Cam Newton. Oof,
don't do that.
Don't do that.
So now Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. So let's think. He had issues with Big Ben. He had issues with Kurt Warner. He had issues with Andrew Luck, of all people. And now he's had issues, allegedly, with Tom Brady. So that's 4 dudes. And out of the 4 dudes, 3 of them, well, one is in the Hall of Fame. One is the GOAT, going to be in the Hall of Fame. And the other, Big Ben's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And the other one could have been in the Hall of Fame. But the offensive line said, nah, we're not going to block. So, hey, man, sounds like a difficult guy to play for. Granted, you got to have some tough skin and be able to bounce back and everything like that. But I don't know, man. I don't know if Jameis will be willing to go back there in that situation. And furthermore, I don't think that Arians will want him. Like, from the Arians' perspective, it's like, man, I had him already. He turned the ball over too much for me. Like, I mean, shoot, I would dial up your boy Jimmy G, if I was them. See what San Francisco talking about.
Those calls will be made, but I'll still take Jameis's arm over his any day at this point. But continuing to go down the list. Where did that one go? Doug Toby says, if we sign 2, he's a Bengals fan. He says, if we sign 2 stud free agent linemen, how do you feel then? I feel that you still have 3 bad linemen on there. I'm just saying. But I see what he's getting at. Look, the Bengals just got to a Super Bowl with one of the worst offensive lines in NFL history. I would not feel confident about them running it back with that same offensive line, and I don't anticipate them to have that same offensive line. But at the same time, I think that even if they button up that offensive line, I do not think that the Bengals are as good as what you think they are. I still think they're really good. I don't think that offense is as good. If you take out Kev, everyone is living in this world where the Bengals offense, the majority of those stats that he had on the year came from 3 games, both Baltimore games and the Chiefs. Those 3 games. He also had 4 games where he threw for under 200 yards this year. For the majority, for more than 75% of the season, he led the league in interceptions. It is not as if this offense is bulletproof. It is not as if you can rely, and then this is that schedule that everyone was talking about, Kev. They have the Falcons, okay, that at home, but they have the Bills. They have the Chiefs. They have the Dolphins. Dolphins are, we'll see what ends up happening with that. Dolphins roster has a lot of talent on it. They were one of the hottest teams down the stretch. They just had lost too much at the beginning. We'll see how they kind of pick up with their new coach and see what goes on there. They play Dallas at Dallas. That'll be a 1-possession game.
Get your popcorn
It could be a coin flip as far as who you roll with there. They have the Patriots. They have the Bucks. And they have the Titans. And they also have the Jets, who they lost to last year. And that Jets will be better. So I'm not saying they're losing to the Jets. I'm not going to dig myself a hole like I did last year when it came to this team. However, I'm also not going to do what you guys are doing and overreacting to a potential one-hit wonder team this past year. That defense was very good in the playoffs. It was okay during the regular season. Can they pick up with the Bucs defense was lights out last year during the playoffs, Kev? They were kind of average this regular season. They never returned to form. They never were able to kind of get back to that intensity that they were in the playoffs last year. You know what I mean? So, and then plus the other thing to consider, that Super Bowl hangover, that exists.
Yep.
There's a lot working against the Cincinnati Bengals. There's a reason I brought them up as far as, and again, for those of you who are just tuning in and don't even know what the hell we're talking about, half the time I don't even know what the hell we're talking about. For the last 5 years, on average, 8 teams missed the playoffs the next season that made the playoffs the year before. In 2020, 14 teams made the playoffs. 7 of those did not participate in the playoffs this past year. In 2019, 12 teams made the playoffs. 41% of those teams did not make the playoffs in 2020. That's a lot of teams. Is your team one of them? I think the Bengals are on the verge of potentially being that, not because they're bad, but because I don't think they're as great as you think. And I think that there's going to be a lot of teams with similar records as the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to be, again, about a 10-11 win team. I think that the Ravens could be a 9-11 win team. Kev, I think that the Browns could be a 9-11 win team. I think that the Chargers can be a 9-11 win team. I think that I think the Patriots can be a 9-11 win team. I think your Steelers can be anywhere between a 7-9 win team, which would put them in that general area as far as I'm concerned. I am not hating. I am being very realistic. Buffalo is going to be about a 12-plus win team as far as I'm concerned. The Chiefs aren't going anywhere. I have no clue why people are jumping on this idea that the Chiefs are no longer good. I don't understand that mindset. I really don't. The Chiefs are going nowhere. That's still like the Chiefs, even though, and give the Bengals credit, they beat them twice. The Chiefs are still the face of the AFC. They're still the face of the AFC. And then the Bills are right there too. And then, man, what happens if? Oh, and by the way, don't forget about the Titans. The Titans are going to be an 11-12 win team again, because you're going to say, well, they have Ryan Tannehill. Well, they had Ryan Tannehill last year. They're not going to miss that. Their offense isn't based on him. Their offense is based on Derrick Henry, the run game, and the defense, all of which they're going to have next year. So that's why I think that the Bengals are not in trouble, but I think that they're vulnerable, and they're in my top 5 of missing the playoff next year as far as I'm concerned, of the teams that made it this year who will miss next year. 518-1410, 518-1410. Kev, let me get your mic back on, but go ahead and let's go down this list of callers. Who we got?
Let's go to JD online too.
JD, how are you, sir?
Hey, guys, what's going on? Man, this show is therapeutic, I'll tell you. Bengals fan here. I agree with about everything you said. There's one point I want to make. Katie Blackburn, Mike Brown's daughter, lawyer, 20 years NFL experience, chief contract negotiator. I think the league is going to be quite surprised at the offensive line she's going to put together. She is absolutely phenomenal. She's a chess player, and here's what she has that her dad doesn't. She's aggressive and competitive like her grandfather, Paul Brown, and that guy is an absolute football genius.
So you're saying it skips a generation, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can ask any Bengals fan for 20 years. Mike Brown, a great businessman, but I don't think he really cared too much to win or not. But this lady wants to win, and her husband helps run the team. That's the key piece. Who do you think brought in Zach Taylor, Burrow, Jamar? She's instrumental in all these moves. And she's the first woman to be a chief contract negotiator in the NFL. So I think the factor is going to be the offensive line, and she's going to be instrumental in bringing in some top talent. And I think most of us will be surprised. So that's just a comment I wanted to have.
No, and thank you, man. I appreciate that. Look, I agree with everything that you were saying. The point I was trying to make when I think it was Toby who had asked me what happens if they get 2 high quality offensive linemen. I don't think that that's going to take that offense like above the Chiefs. I don't think they'll be better than the Chiefs. I don't think their offense will be better than the Bills. As a team, they might be better than the Bills and Chiefs, but maybe not even then. I just think it puts them up there with them. But I don't think what goes for the Chiefs is there's a gap between them and the rest of the teams in their division. The Bills have a chance to create a gap between them and the rest of the teams in their division. That gap doesn't exist for Cincinnati, which is the only reason I'm saying that they are being held back because of how competitive their division. They play in the toughest division in football, or at least in the AFC for sure. Mm-hmm. That is why I am not telling you that your team's not good. All I'm saying is I do not believe that they are I don't think they're as good as people think. They're not a 13-3 team or a 13-4 team, I guess, if you will. They're not going to win more than 11 games, and maybe they win 12, and then you could say, oh, you were wrong. Okay, fine. I'm telling you they're good. Joe Burrow will be in the MVP conversation. You'll once again have 2 to 3 1,000-yard wide receivers next year. Joe Mixon will be top 5 in total yards rushing next year. You had all of that this year and fell short, and you could fall short again next year. and you only won 10 games this year. You had all of that. 3 1,000-yard wide receivers, a top 3 running back, a quarterback that should have probably got more conversation for MVP votes, and you still only won 10 games. Why should I believe that that's guaranteed to be different next year when your schedule is tougher? The Super Bowl hangover, that'll be key. All right, the division is healthier now. The Ravens will be better. The Browns will be way better. The Steelers are the Steelers. This was the worst Steelers team of my lifetime, and they still made the damn playoffs this year. So it's just the division. That's all. This isn't a big thing. If you ask me is there a gap between the Bengals, Chiefs, and Bills? Rank those 3.
Man, the crazy thing is I like the Bills better than the Chiefs.
I think the Bills are they destroyed the Patriots. They destroyed the Chiefs. As good as the Bengals thought they looked against them in the playoffs, the Bills were just better. And the Bills have a better defense than the Bengals, in my opinion. They weren't better against the Chiefs in the playoffs, but statistically they were better. And the Bills will add to that defense this coming up off season. We'll see what ends up happening, but they were a much more improved running team. They improved on that last season. I don't know. I don't think that there's not a big gap between the Bengals, the Bills, and the Chiefs, but that's not the point. The Chargers were a very good team last year that missed the playoffs.
For
the
sure.
Bengals could be a good team that missed the playoffs.
If you ask me to rank those teams, I'm going to go Buffalo, even though they lost to Kansas City. And I'm going to use the same, and I'll say the Bengals above the Chiefs as well. I'm going to pay homage and I'm going to show them respect for beating the Chiefs, not only in their home stadium, but on the road in the AFC Championship game. So out of those, I would go Buffalo, Bengals, Chiefs. And for Cincinnati Bengals fans, they got every right in the world to feel this way. They just went to the Super Bowl and only lost by 3 points with probably the worst offensive line that's ever played in the Super Bowl. So the feeling of, all right, man, all we got to do is X, Y, and Z, and we should be right back there. They should feel that way. I know I would feel that way if I was a Bengals fan. I would be in the same boat. But the reality of the situation is, it's not only about what you do on your team. It's the fact that things aren't balanced. Everybody's not playing in the AFC North. People playing in the AFC East. People are playing in the AFC West, where their worst team, we'll just say for argument's sake, well, not even argument's sake, this season, the Ravens were the worst team record-wise in the AFC North. They would destroy the Jets with the backup quarterback, with the 4th string corners that they had out there. So the worst team in the AFC North is better than every worst team in every other conference. We talked about this in August. We were trying to say that the NFC West was the best because of the Rams, because of the Niners, because of the Cardinals. At the end of the day, it always comes back to the AFC North being the toughest. They are the toughest division in football, and that's why it's a bloodbath every single year. Steelers started out 11-0. Guess what? They started playing the Browns. They started playing the Bengals. They started playing the Ravens. They're coming back to the pack. It's the AFC North. It's tough. And that's why a lot of the times the teams from the AFC North, when they get in the playoffs, they make a run because they've been playing against elite competition while they've been playing against the Jets. So the AFC North is tough, man. It's tough.
518-1410, 518-1410. Josh Maloney says, Gronk to Cincinnati, and if so, would he help more than CJ? I mean, I think what Gronk accomplishes for the Bengals is he's effective, yes. How effective at this stage, I don't know. But the only thing Gronk accomplishes for the Bengals is just getting a name player at a position that just it changes the perception of the Bengals of, if you can actually get Gronk, who's been playing in Tampa the last 2 years, enjoying the beautiful weather, who is a huge party guy, all that fun stuff. If you can get him to come to Cincinnati, the only thing that Gronk does for Cincinnati is it gives off the perception that people want to come play with Joe Burrow, that people want to come play in Cincinnati. That's what Gronk accomplishes. I don't think Gronk makes them. Does he sway them anyway?
I don't know, like sway them, but you know I mean, like, you add, like, for my money, you try to keep CJ and you get Gronk because you need 2 tight ends. Gronk is a great inline blocker. You have a great inline blocker like that, it only helps out pass protection. It only helps out the running game. Gronk is known to be a pancake blocker from the tight end position. He can obviously flex out. He's still got great hands and everything like that. I don't understand this rhetoric of saying, okay, we'll bring in Gronk and let CJ go. No, both. You need both. Like, think about how when Gronk and I know Aaron Hernandez went to jail for killing a man, but think about that. Like, that offense was legit because they had two of the best tight ends in football. More weapons, the merrier.
And Hernandez loved weapons.
Oh, goodness.
What? He killed it there.
I can't with you, bruh.
You started it.
No, I was just pointing out the fact that when it was Aaron Hernandez and Gronk, they balled out of control. Why not get both? Why does it have to be let CJ go? Like, he's not about to be out here demanding a ton of money from other teams. You can afford to pay both. You can afford to get him. You can afford to get Gronk. You can afford to get some offensive linemen. Because guess what? Your star offensive players are on rookie deals. So take advantage. Go ahead, get that veteran in there. Plus, Gronk will take a couple of games off anyway. You know he's going to get hurt.
But at this point, they're just so dang... Yeah, I don't know. I have to look to see what free agents are even available as far as that's concerned at this point. But 518-1410, Kev, who we got?
We have Brent, line 4.
Brent, how are you, sir?
How you guys doing?
Excellent.
Good.
All right, man. Hey, just wanted to piggyback off of what you guys were talking about as far as teams dropping out from year to year, being in the playoffs and not being in the playoffs. And I agree, man. It's a gauntlet to go through the season and try to make it back, especially for the Bengals and me being a Bengals fan, to try to make it back. It's just such a grind. It's hard to do. But if I can just throw my 2 cents in real quick, I think the AFC North and what Kev was saying is definitely true. I mean, it's just tough. And I hate to do this to you, Kev, but I'm going to leave Pittsburgh out of it. And I think there's a really good possibility that you say the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Titans, and the Bills. And I think it's a good possibility the AFC North could send 3 teams to the playoffs. And now one of those teams, whether it be the Bengals or the Browns or the Ravens, may have to try to beat out a Patriots team. But if that's possible, how crazy would it be to see 3 of the AFC North teams in a playoff and even possibly see 2 of those teams go at it with each other, whether it be the first or second round, or hell, even all the way to the AFC Championship.
Well, 3
Bengals and Browns. I mean, that would be crazy.
3 FC North teams made the playoffs in 2020. The Ravens, Browns, and Steelers all made it. So, like, that's likely to happen. It can happen. We've seen it happen.
I could see that again. And I don't know if you guys know this. Haven't done enough research, but I know that has happened before, and I kind of got a feeling that possibly could happen this coming up year. But is there any other division, AFC, NFC, that has done that before or ever?
I know that
other than the North.
In the 90s, I know that the NFC East did it with the Giants, then the Washington football team, and the Cowboys. I know that. And
yeah, okay.
I mean, but that's past too. I mean, like, you'll see, like, the Falcons and Saints, like, years ago, were really good at the same time. In the NFC West, I mean, the NFC West, they did it this year. They had 3 in: the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Niners.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Honestly, if Seattle, with how down the NFC is, Seattle could have easily found themselves in what I don't know has happened if all 4 teams in the division have made it, because I don't think it's that crazy to think that could happen, especially in the NFC next year, because I don't think the NFC is going to be that good. And I think that division, if the Seahawks make a couple nice moves in the offseason, they could be, about a 9-win team, which I think that can get them in the playoffs out of the NFC. But I mean, you look at Baltimore. I mean, Cleveland or Cincinnati was 10-7, won the division. They won 2 more games than Cleveland. They won 2 more games than the last place Baltimore Ravens. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I love about the AFC North is, people have to throw around last place, but that's sometimes deceiving. It has a negative connotation to it. It sucks to be last, but sometimes being last in that type of division, it doesn't necessarily, like you're 8 wins, man. Like, that's hard to do.
Well, you said it earlier. I mean, just because you're last place in the AFC North, it doesn't mean you're a bad team. You could be still a really good. just a couple games.
Yeah, I think it'll be
you're
2
out.
games that separate, and it was this year. I mean, I'm saying it like next year it's going to be that hot of a take. It happened this year. I think 2 games will separate next year's. Well, I think 1 to 2 games will separate first from last in the AFC North, which that's why I said Cincinnati's vulnerable because of how tough that division
They are.
is. Good teams can be left out.
Unless they address the offensive line, which everybody knows and it's been talked about ever since the Super Bowl's been over. But unless they do, with everybody at full strength, Cleveland, the Ravens, and depending on, what the Steelers do, man, it's going to be a long year. I mean, I don't think that they're, going to just, poop out and only win 6 games. But
I love the overcorrection there.
it was close. It's Friday, man. But at the same time, it could be a lot tougher this coming up year if they don't, because like you said, they did get lucky, and sometimes getting to the Super Bowl, there is a little luck on your side. But man, if you're playing all those teams at full strength, they got to do it, man. They got to spend the money. They got to go out and get free agents and not really worry. I mean, do what you can in the draft, yeah, but go out and get guys that are actually playing now that you know what you're getting and pay them. You got $54 million, make some moves, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm all for addressing the needs in free agency and then adding to your depth in the draft. And I think that's going to be key. And the point I made yesterday, I don't care what it is, what area of the line they improve. There's no one on that line that's untouchable. Now, that doesn't mean you have to get rid of guys. Like Jonah Williams, I don't think is a guaranteed lock to be the guy moving forward. But if you have a chance to replace it with someone better, you do it. Does that mean you get rid of Jonah Williams? No, 100%. It just means you have depth. So I think that needs to be – people keep getting in their mind that, they need to get someone better than Jonah Williams. They need to get someone better than everybody on that line, but it doesn't mean you get rid of it.
Exactly.
You can rotate guys.
And really, if you have depth on an offensive line, I think that's huge because then you can kind of switch players in and out and keep everybody pretty fresh, and then you're dangerous. Then Joe Mixon can have, a hell of a season. Can you imagine if he had an offensive line that can rotate and stay fresh all game and open up holes for him? I don't think we've seen the best of Joe Mixon. I think that if he had holes just like Chubb, good Lord.
Well,
I don't think that he's as good as Chubb, but I think that he could put up some killer numbers as far as yards go.
Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb are the only 2 running backs to run for more yards this year than Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon had a fantastic year. I'm not going to use the word disappeared in the playoffs, but you're going up against better teams. In the regular season, you get to run against a lot of bad teams, but in the playoffs, the running back numbers are going to drop because you're going up against much better defenses at that point. But it'll be interesting.
Well, hey man, I appreciate you guys. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you guys taking my call. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and Who Day, baby.
All right, take care. Appreciate you. 3-day weekend, by the way. Excited about that. Brad Mays says, what up, Brad Mays? Jesse James would be good in Cincinnati. He is cheap and very solid for the money, opens things up.
Tight end. I know he used to play with the Steelers. I don't know where he played last year. Did he play with the Cardinals last year? I'm not sure.
I'll have to look that up just to make sure exactly where he played last year. Doug Toby said all 4 are pretty good this year. I say they beat up on each other. Can't get 3 in. Look, the 3 teams out of the AFC North that can make it next year, the Bears. He said the Bears. The Bears.
Okay.
The Ravens, Bengals, Browns can make it next year. But then again, the Steelers, man, they're like a gnat. They don't go away. They have no business being in the playoffs, and yet there they are. It makes me sick. Did I mention that the Steelers swept not only your Cleveland Browns, but the Baltimore Ravens as well? Got swept by the Bengals. Like me going to a 5th grade recess, playing a kid one-on-one and saying, I won all my basketball games today. Hey, man, you got it done, didn't you? There's some good 5th graders out there, man. You see that one 5th grader dunking? It's a 5th grader that is 6'3", yamming on folks. If they let me play in 5th grade again, I'd be the best 5th grader out there.
Not versus this
kid.
See
how weird it is to brag about weird stuff like
Not
that?
This kid.
We beat the Browns twice last year.
Hey, man. You brag about beating the Bengals.
The team that was just a play away from winning the Super Bowl.
But you always beat the Bengals, right?
I mean, like I said, everyone's mad because the owner, Mike Brown, looked less than enthusiastic at the trophy presentation at the AFC title game. You should have sent the other owner of the Bengals. Baker Mayfield had nothing going on that weekend. He would have gladly accepted that trophy on behalf of the team he owns.
The real owner should have been up there, Katie. She should have been up there because everybody, well, I won't say everybody, but everybody knows the rumors about why the Bengals have been better.
Injuries to the Browns and the Ravens. But there's more. 518-1410. We'll be back.
The Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
This view was worth a hike.
Right? And it's a good way to stay on top of my health.
Yes, I'm Cologuard, a prescription colon cancer screening option for people 45 plus at average risk. Have you screened for colon cancer?
Not yet.
Don't wait. It's more treatable when caught in early stages.
Tell me more.
Cologuard is non-invasive and it's used at home. It detects altered DNA in your stool to find 92% of colon cancers.
92%?
Yep, even those in early stages.
This was seen in a clinical study with patients 50 and older. Any positive result should be followed by a diagnostic colonoscopy. False positive and negative results may occur. Cologuard is not a replacement for colonoscopy in high-risk patients. Do not use if you have had adenomas, have inflammatory bowel disease and certain hereditary syndromes, or a personal or family history of colon cancer.
Most insured patients pay $0. Ask your provider or an online prescriber if Cologuard is right for you, or visit Cologuard.com.
I'm in.
Everybody knows that Roosters is a fun, casual joint with their award-winning waitstaff, great food, fun, and laughter. It's a quick stop on the way home to sit back and unwind. It's a front row seat to the big game. Roosters is where you, your family, and friends can order pizza, sandwiches, salads, and more. And the home of award-winning wings that are fresh, never frozen, and so big you won't believe it. It's your family's other dinner table. Roosters, a fun, casual joint, and proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
The Montgomery County Clerk of Courts Help Center brings the courthouse to the community with its weekly outreach programs to local churches, libraries, and community centers. We help you navigate the legal system. Find a location near you at courthouse2u.com. Brought to you by Montgomery County Clerk of Courts, Mike Foley.
KTH Parts Industries has immediate openings for second and third shift production associates and equipment technicians. KTH promotes from within, offers an attractive benefit package including medical, dental, 401k, attendance bonus, and a competitive wage, starting at $19 per hour with annual increases and shift differential. KTH will be hosting walk-in interviews Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. through 3 p.m. Please bring a resume and photo ID to apply or see other career opportunities at kth.net. KTH is an equal opportunity employer.
Come rain or shine, high winds or mild breezes, blue skies or gray, it's a great time to consider getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Weather brought to you by Cullet Propane, keeping utilities simple and families warm since 1952. See how and more at culletpropane.com.
Let's be real. Mopping is a hassle. You have to fill the bucket, pushing a wet, heavy mop around, then cleaning the mop when you're done so it doesn't grow bacteria. A hassle on top of a hassle. Try Swiffer Wet Jet. With Swiffer Wet Jet, you start with a fresh pad and cleaning solution every time. And when you're done, you just toss the pad. Swiffer Wet Jet, the faster, easier, cleaner way to clean your floors.
Hey, Ray Magliozzi here. I'd like to carry more parts at my shop, but I just don't have the room. Every time I go in the back to get wiper blades, I trip over a dusty crate of Honda air filters, then bang my head on some GTO radiator hoses. eBay Motors never has that problem. They stock all the right parts at the right prices. 122 million of them, with everything from new headlights to vintage gear shifters. I can't imagine being able to stock 122 million parts. I mean, where would I get all those shelves? eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Progressive Snapshot can save you money based on how you drive and how much you drive. So the safer you drive, the more money you could save. Now, if you didn't hear that because you were yelling at another car while driving, let me say it again. You need to calm down. Yelling is just making everyone as stressed out as you are and letting them all know that you definitely aren't trying to save with Progressive Snapshot. And if you did hear it the first time because you weren't yelling at another car, nice work. You'd love Snapshot from Progressive because it rewards safe drivers. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California and North Carolina or from all agents.
O'Reilly. Protect your vehicle's engine with Syntec and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Syntec Premium Full Synthetic Motor Oil is formulated for today's engines to reduce wear. Right now, get 5 quarts of Syntec Full Synthetic and a MicroGuard Select filter for just $31.99. Plus, earn double O Rewards points. Try Syntec today exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Don't put it off any longer. You know it's time. Time for a bathroom upgrade by Bath Creations. Bath Creations is a leader in bathroom renovations, providing the very best value in bath and shower remodeling and proudly made in the USA. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful modern bathroom that's safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save $500 off your purchase right now. Visit Poe Avenue in Dayton or online at mybathcreations.com. And upgrade today.
Beyond Vision is a tactile art experience for the blind and visually impaired coming to downtown Dayton this spring at the Landing Event Space at the 804. All multisensory artists are encouraged to submit their work for consideration to help raise awareness for the visually impaired community. Beyond Vision is bringing accessible art to Dayton. Come be a part of the experience. For more information or to submit your art, visit beyondvisionart.com. That's beyondvisionart.com.
Looking for a way to kick your family's meal up a notch? Then Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken has you covered with the 8-piece spicy box at a great price. Experience spicy perfection with 8 pieces of fresh, never frozen classic chicken that's freshly marinated and hand breaded with a kick. Then it's cooked fresh, just right to seal in that famous flavor. This is the best chicken made bold. Satisfy your spicy cravings with the 8-piece spicy box at a great price. Only at Lee's. Famous for chicken.
Cordell Transportation is now hiring Class A CDL drivers. $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily dedicated lanes, no touch freight. Apply today at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
I struggled with symptoms like frequent gas and stomach pain for years.
I was bloated all the time with daily diarrhea.
At first, I thought it was what I was eating.
I kept thinking it was stomach issues.
So I did my research and talked to my doctor, and we finally uncovered the truth.
It was actually EPI. Exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, is a condition where your pancreas is unable to help break down your food.
It can lead to symptoms like diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, unexplained weight loss, and oily stools.
And EPI symptoms can be confused with those of other common digestive conditions, like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, and celiac disease.
So getting to the right diagnosis meant being more open with my doctor about the severity of my symptoms and how often they were happening.
But there's good news. EPI is manageable, so don't wait any longer. Use the symptom checker at identifyepi.com and schedule a visit or call with your doctor to ask, could I have EPI?
Sponsored by AbbVie.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Now is the time to experience the Brookhaven difference. Don't miss your chance to live in an active retirement community, make new friends, and enjoy chef-cooked meals. 1 month free when you schedule your tour by February 28th by calling 937-833-4006. At Brookhaven, we have everything you need to live an active, independent lifestyle. Call 833-4006 today. Brookhaven, expect to be impressed.
Exergen would like you to know about an important new study by the FDA. It confirms what the medical community has always known. Non-contact thermometers are not accurate, and they fail to meet FDA requirements for accuracy in labeling. With new strains of COVID on the rise, we can't afford to tolerate rampant false temperature readings from non-contact thermometers. Accurate temperature measurements are essential. You need Exergen thermometers because they are accurate and backed by over 100 clinical studies. Be sure, be accurate with Exergen. Learn more at Exergen.com.
college baseball season's officially started for those of you baseball fanatics out there who just aren't getting what you're looking for without Major League Baseball. Of course, it was announced today. Spring training will not start on time. The earliest it would start now would be March 5th, which as we currently sit here on the 18th. I mean, that's, 2 weeks from now is the earliest we could start listening and watching spring training baseball. But nonetheless, college baseball is officially underway. The best college baseball team in Ohio is Wright State.
I was about to ask you about that.
They have the best program in the state. Wright State is better than, they have a better baseball program than Ohio State, Kent State, Toledo, UD, everything. Wright State, I mean, they put guys in the pros on a yearly, annual basis. It's unbelievable the job that Sogard in that program have done. But they are facing number 11 Georgia Tech right now. The last update I had, they were up 3-1 in the third. They had one hell of a tournament run last year. They lost at Tennessee. I have never seen a college baseball atmosphere that gave me goosebumps before until last year. It wasn't the result anyone wanted, but they won on a walk-off against Wright State. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was Wright State just looked the part. They had every piece you can imagine to be able to go out of Tennessee. But Tennessee, it was like a college football SEC typical atmosphere there. It
means more.
It was freaking insane. And I was so pissed when Wright State lost. They had a walk-off in the bottom of the ninth, and I got goosebumps watching the crowd reaction. I'm like, I'm bummed watching the team I'm pulling for lose this, but I got goosebumps watching the atmosphere at that game. It was unreal. But Wright State picking up a confidence. Don't have the update, but the last I checked, they were up 3-1 over number 11 Georgia Tech. They're no stranger to taking care of business against these top teams in the country, which is also pretty cool as far as that's concerned. 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to call in and jump in on the conversation. Doug Toby, he says that first four at UD in less than a month, he was looking at tickets. It looks like about 70% of them are sold. In fact, we have the big hoopla, the organizing committee that helps put on the first four every year at UD Arena. We'll be chatting with some representatives from the big hoopla from the first four organizing committee coming up here in the coming weeks. I mean, Doug brings up a good point to me. We are just, I think 3 weeks from Sunday is Selection Sunday.
Crazy.
So that's what's pretty interesting about that. I'm pulling up the bracketology report right now. The Dayton Flyers, although are not in anyone's at-large conversation as far as being within the bracketology reports. They are being mentioned though as some of the first four teams out, which means they're a fringe team. We watched them become a first four team years ago. They're not going to become a first four team this year. I mean, we're talking about they're not a 16 seed. My goodness, they're not a 16 seed. So that's not what it would be. But UD's also not an 11 or a 12 seed, so they're not going to get that love either. So they won't get the first four treatment. Now, here's what's interesting. So Doug Toby mentioned the fact that only 70% of tickets are sold. Doug, are you saying that only 70% are sold? Are you saying that like only 70% are sold? Or are you saying that like you're impressed that 70% are sold? 13,000 seats, 70% of the tickets are sold. I think you'll see an influx of tickets be bought once we finally know who the teams are. But for those of you who are kind of keeping an eye on the bracketology reports, these are some fun matchups that are being, kind of rumored, or not rumored, but as far as being, prognosticated on as far as what we could expect come the first four. So Norfolk State to New Orleans. Get your tickets now, folks. That's your 16 seed matchup. Be nice. All right. UNC, Wilmington, and Southern. I wanted to get those ones out of the way because those are not going to make you rush to the box office, not box office, to the Ticketmaster, wherever the hell you get your tickets from to get the. So Norfolk State, New Orleans, UNC, Wilmington, Southern. According to ESPN's Joe Lenardi, those are his 2 16th seeds in his latest bracketology report. Here's the matchups that'll get you to go buy these tickets. And we'll be keeping an eye on how these lines move over the next coming weeks. Again, Selection Sunday, 3 weeks from Sunday. Now things start ramping up. Memphis and Michigan. Memphis and Michigan is one of the matchups that Joe Lenardi has for the first four at UD Arena. I will definitely want to buy tickets for Memphis. I mean, Penny Hardaway against Juwan Howard. How about that? So I don't know if you saw what had happened in the game last night for Michigan, but apparently Juwan Howard, ball is live and in play, and he walks onto the floor and picks up the basketball. So I said, timeout, timeout, timeout.
Oh.
You mean to tell me that someone from the Fab Five made a mistake late in the basketball game? Who would have thunk it? I appreciate the laughter.
Yeah, terrible.
Timeout. That's what I even put. I was proud of myself for that one. I was very proud of it. Timeout. Come on, everyone knows what I'm referring to. But no, in all seriousness, the Joe Lunardi's latest bracketology report: Norfolk State, New Orleans, UNC Wilmington Southern, the 2-16 seed matchups. Okay, those aren't always the most sexy. Those are usually really good games, though.
Mm-hmm.
We do have to acknowledge that the first four used to be 2 16 seed games, or like it would be all 16 seeds. It was just terrible, right? But yet UD Arena would still be full for those. Like, that's how much we love college basketball around here. We're in for a treat with these 11 and 12 seed matchups, because I just talked about how you would get, as of right now, according to Joe Lunardi, Memphis and Michigan. That's one hell of a match. Juwan Howard against Penny Hardaway from a coaching matchup perspective. But how about North Carolina and Creighton?
Yeah.
That's the other first four matchup. So, Doug, it's a good point. 70% of tickets are sold. I don't know if you're saying that's impressive or not impressive, but I do think people do sit on their hands a little bit and they wait to see what that matchup is going to be before they rush there. But my favorite matchups are always those 11 seeds and the 12 seeds. Like, those are always my favorites as far as that's concerned, especially when you get to I think it's 12 versus 5 or what was that paired? The 12 versus 5 is always those are always my favorite matchups. Those are always the most entertaining. And these 12 versus 12s and 11 versus 11s. I mean, Michigan, Memphis, that's a round of 32. That's a Sweet 16 type matchup right there. So I love that. And North Carolina and Creighton, two good quality. I mean, North Carolina is a blue blood, of course, but Creighton's a good mid-major brand as well. I'm a fan of both of those 11 seed matchups if those pan out.
Oh, it's going to be epic, man. And don't forget, man, this has a huge walk-up crowd to it. Every year, and we go through this every year. Like, oh man, it's only 80%. I'm like, what's going on? And then you tune into the game, it's a packed house. Or you go to the game thinking like, oh man, I'm gonna have some room to spread out and stretch my legs, and you're packed in there like sardines, having a good time watching some good hoops. So it's here. I love it. We're back.
So Doug said he was impressed. Okay, that's what I thought. Like, I think 70% of tickets being sold for this without even knowing who the teams are. By the way, that's very impressive. Now that you think about it, Doug, thank you for pointing that out. 70% of tickets are sold for this event, Kev. You don't even know who the hell the teams are going to be. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty. The more I thought about it, I'm like, wait, that is pretty dang. I mean, more than half the arena is sold. More than half the seats are sold, and you don't even know who's going to be playing. But man, I'm trying to be real. I want that Memphis-Michigan matchup. You know, when Penny Hardaway, Memphis has been quiet since he's been cussing out the media. Which, by the way,
they just beat Houston.
Did they beat Houston recently? So here's the thing about Memphis and Penny Hardaway when he was going off on the media. You know why I was probably one of the only guys. I mean, the media, you should have seen the do-gooders on social media. Oh, I can't believe he talked like that to the media. The media deserves to be talked to that way sometimes. He's not wrong. We take a team has expectations based on the players that's on the roster. And then when the players on the roster aren't playing because they're injured, then we have the nerve to say, I can't believe they're not winning basketball games. It's really not that hard to understand. And I'm consistent. I say this about football and all sports. There are teams who have expectations coming into a season based on roster construction. And when the roster construction that has created the expectations is not matching what's on the floor because of health reasons, it's very simple. The Browns, they didn't live up to expectations. They weren't healthy. Why? How can a team that doesn't have the players on the field that made them the contenders that they were heading into the year, how can you hold them to that same standard? That's called being a hater or not knowing what the hell you're talking about. Penny Hardaway, I applaud the hell out of him. I think more coaches need to tell media to STFU. I really do think that. And I'm not joking. I talk a lot. Anthony Grant won't talk to me. I wish every day he would just have the nerve one day to say, Kennard, STFU. I just wish more coaches had the guts to do it, Kev, because media deserves it. We as media act like we could say whatever we want, but the second a coach or a player says something back to us, we get our feelings hurt. We get appalled. Oh, who the hell are you to talk to me? Oh, okay. Well, my job is to talk smack and talk all this about all these teams, all these players, all these coaches. And then Penny Hardaway has the nerve to come back at you, and now everyone's offended. Now, this is a month-old story of him going off in the media, but more media needs it, Kev. More media needs it. I feel like I could say whatever I want. I can write whatever I want, tweet whatever I want, say whatever I want. I think a coach needs to say, hey, Kennard, STFU.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Fill in the blank.
Oh, man.
I get one good one. Make it count. 518-1410. Kev, who we got?
We got Jesse, line 2.
Jesse.
What's going on, fellas?
How are you? I haven't checked. Did Joe Burrow win that Defensive Player of the Year award yet?
I'm still looking. I got to get on my phone. I've been on hold for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, listen, a lot of people have been dropping on us today, but I'm going to chat. Kathy.
Well, I'm happy. I'm on the Brad Mays show with Kev Nash, sponsored by.
You hear that, Brad Mays?
Justin Kennard.
There we go, Brad Mays, the Brad Mays show. See, Brad will be happy to hear that. By the way, real quick, since you set that up, if you're looking to buy or sell your home, give Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty a call today, 572-7425. There you see Mr. Brad Mays right there. For those watching on Facebook and YouTube, give Brad Mays a call.
He does a damn fine job.
Yes, he does.
He does a damn fine job.
He has never said anything you disagree with.
I wouldn't imagine he would. I wanted to apologize because we went to bed bad last night. You know, my wife tells me not to go to sleep mad, and I think we hung up in a bad spot last night. I didn't mean when I said the Browns will be 8-9 next year. That was a complete lie. There's no way they're winning 8 games next year, so I really apologize for saying that. So everything you said after that, I totally forgive you. They're not going 8-9 next year. I don't know why I said that. I mean, maybe 6 or 7, but I just wanted to apologize because I felt we left in a bad place.
All good. I don't get my feelings hurt. Are you kidding me? If I had my feelings hurt, you think I could do this show? Dealing with guys like you every day, which I appreciate you, by the way, but you guys call in to push my buttons, my blood pressure would be through the roof. I might have to break out the hate. Oh, it works.
Oh, no.
This mic was meant for people like you, Mr. Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah.
I had put this thing away, but Jesse has brought it out.
My left ear is right now from just wanting to talk to you. I have the sweatiest left ear in the world, so please give me a little bit of something on that, okay?
That's
just
fair.
Because I wanted
that might be the weirdest thing. That might be the weirdest thing anyone's ever said on the show, but I will let you have time to talk. That is for sure. I have the sweatiest left ear.
You never held a cell phone to your ear for an hour?
No, I'm one of those annoying people that I talk on speaker all the time. I really do, mainly because I've had the same phone for like 6 years and I just won't replace it.
I should probably look into that. Yeah.
No, I just like talking on speaker. I hate holding it up to my ear.
That's why my name comes up as Ashley. She pays for it.
What?
Oh,
no.
I didn't hear what he said.
He said that's why his name comes up as Ashley.
Oh,
somebody else pays for it.
Hey, we all need a sugar mama from time to time. Good for you.
Yeah, dude. No, I love you guys. Y'all have a good night.
All right,
have a good one, man. Have a good weekend.
Go drive that ear. All right.
Yes, sir.
518-1410. Holy smokes. All right. That wraps it up for us this week. Is what it is. The hater mic. It's charged. It's ready to go. I'm bringing it back starting next week. The hater mic will be back. Let's see.
Great.
Check. Hold up. It's coming back on. It just upset a lot of people. Actually, you want to know when I put it away? When the Bengals started winning a lot of games, that's when I put it away. But I don't have to worry about the Bengals winning any games, at least until September of next year. So I can use this to mock whoever I want, including Jesse and Charlie and all you other Bengals homers out there. Bring it. That's all I got to say. All right, folks, have a great weekend. We'll be back next Tuesday. No Sunday morning show. That is done until next football season. I appreciate Frickers for having us out each and every Sunday morning. But yeah, excited for next week. WWE Raw will be in Columbus on February 28th. Okay. And we have a boatload of tickets that we'll be giving away. From what I've been told today, I can't tell you who, but we're getting some tickets to some really kick-ass concerts coming up. Like Kev knows what I'm talking about. I don't think I'm allowed to reveal it yet. But when that time comes, I'm excited. These are tickets I may not give away. I may hold on to all of them. I'm just joking. They'll kill me if I do that. But I promise you're going to love some of the prizes we're giving away here over the next couple of months. So,
I can give them a hint.
Give them a hint?
I'll give you 2 hints. The 2 big ones are, one is for a comedy show. He's been in the movies such as Friday. The other is another comedy legend, been in films like New Jack City, had a show on HBO.
JoJo.
His younger brother, his 2 younger brothers are also comedians.
Okay. Okay.
So,
all right. What about this other one? This one's already public and it's out there and it's on some of the other stations. But Mr. Cat Williams. So when is that concert?
That is Friday, March 4th at Heritage Bank Center in Cincinnati. Yeah.
I'm sorry. That his stand-up, I've cried laughing at that. Some of his stuff sometimes. Like he is. And probably my favorite is when he got his ass kicked by a middle schooler. That was the best. But no, we are excited. We we're heading into the time of year where we have some really cool prizes. Anyways, we're giving away WWE tickets. We got one concert. I can't tell you, but I'm jacked about this one. This will be the coolest set of tickets we've given away here in quite some time. You want to know when I first started? Flow Rider was in our station. I'll never forget that day because it threw me off. I had no clue what the hell was going on. I'm like, why the hell is that who I think it? That was Flow Rider. He shared the story about how he got kicked out of a Miami Heat game.
Yep.
I mean, it was really cool. But yeah, that was back in the fun days of radio. When we had people in here.
Now it's just me and you.
All right, folks, have a great weekend. Until next week, this has been the Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty and Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. Have a great weekend.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kennard Show with Kev Nash, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience.